Chapter 1647, Contempt. It was inconceivable for her to spread baseless rumors. Instead, she chose to lament everywhere about how her old master was overworked and exhausted. She painted a picture of his daily struggles, emphasizing how he was so busy that his feet barely touched the ground upon waking. Often, he didn't even have time to eat, and she couldn't leave him alone. She had to make decisions and follow his instructions. She expressed genuine concern that if this continued, his health might suffer. Mrs. Xuan smiled, saying, "Old master, don't worry. It's not that I don't understand the seriousness of the situation. I'm just indignant on your behalf. I only gossip at home. If the family forbids me from speaking, I'll feel suffocated." Deputy Prefect Xuan shared her sentiments. "By the way, you should meet Madame Qiao tomorrow or the day after." Deputy Prefect Xuan smirked as he recounted Xiao Xian's words. Mrs. Xuan erupted in anger. "What did you say? That woman. She wants me to pay my respects to her? Ha, who does she think she is? She wants to impose herself on me. I'm utterly disgusted. Just wait, I'll teach her a lesson. I'll show her who holds the reins in Anne's province." Deputy Prefect Xuan chuckled. "Wife, calm down. Although it's distasteful, isn't it easier to handle someone who doesn't hold back? On the surface, you can just appease her with a few pleasant words. After all, once she's appeased, won't she still be under your influence?" Mrs. Xuan's heartbeat quickened. Reflecting on it, that did seem to be the case. Madame Qiao must be foolish to speak so brazenly in front of her old master. Such a person was indeed more manageable. However, Mrs. Xuan's discomfort returned when she considered Madame Qiao's arrogance, impoliteness, and sense of superiority. "I must teach her a lesson. Otherwise, I'll truly be repulsed." This time, Deputy Prefect Xuan remained silent, only cautioning, "Don't go too far. It won't be good if we end up in a feud." Mrs. Xuan sneered, replying, "Don't worry, old master." In the east courtyard, there was an ample supply of funds and labor. Before long, the purchased items were transported back one by one. Ms. Miao, Ms. Song, Xia Sanzao's wife, Caillou's mother, and several other women efficiently organized the space, directing the unloading of items. The required rooms were swiftly filled with the purchased goods. Perhaps due to the abundance of mountains, forests, and high-quality wood in the area, the furniture surprised everyone with its excellent materials and craftsmanship. Xia and Qiao selected a set of quality furniture, and the owner gladly arranged for it to be delivered. There was an assortment of furnishings: 8 immortals' table, chairs, chaise longue, long table, desk, bookshelf, walking bed, wardrobe, dressing table, round table, everything one could imagine. Having been with Qiao Xian for many years, Xia and Qiao knew her preferences well. As expected, Qiao Xian was highly pleased with the chosen furniture. With the furniture in place, curtains and drapes were partially sourced from the embroidery workshop and custom-made for the rest, ready in 3 days. Songshi also purchased several pots of flowers from the market, ranging in sizes and varieties, to adorn the house and courtyard. Qiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan, having brought a few pieces of furniture from the capital, placed them strategically to enhance the room's appearance and reduce the sense of emptiness. Beds and cabinets for the servants' quarters were easier to acquire, made from ordinary yet sturdy and durable fir wood. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1648, Provoke. With all the tasks completed, dusk settled outside, and the lights began to illuminate the surroundings. The restaurant delivered food arrived, and appreciating everyone's hard work, Qiao Xian asked Xia to convey the message for them to rest after dinner. Even though they had settled down, there were still numerous tasks awaiting them in the future. Sun Bai and Sun Qian, vigilant as always, arranged for guards to keep watch through the night. A serene night unfolded. Nestled in Xiao Yunduan's arms, Qiao Xian felt a sense of contentment. This was their home. The following morning, Qiao Xian freshened up and headed to the garden with Xia, Qiao, and Mianmian. Meanwhile, Xiao Yunduan went to the front office to meet all the officers in the prefect's office. The garden, nurtured by Mrs. Guan, was thriving. Roses, gardenias, cuckoos, peonies, and crabapples were all in full bloom. The trees stood lush and green. In high spirits, Qiao Xian and her servants enjoyed a leisurely walk, a rare treat after the challenges they had faced on their journey. Qiao Xian's mischievous side surfaced. She suddenly felt the urge to provoke Mrs. Guan once again. Instructing Li Xia and the others to find a bamboo basket, Qiao Xian called Qing Lian, Qiao Qiao, and Kaiyue to pick the blooming flowers, roses, gardenias, and peonies. She intended to make lip gloss. Trimming branches from the well-blooming peonies and begonias with scissors, she planned to bring them back and arrange them in bottles. The cuckoos and hydrangeas caught her eye. She decided to carefully transplant them later into the east courtyard. Qiao Xian observed the maids picking and arranging flowers, engrossed in their work and laughter, when Mrs. Guan arrived with her attendants. An elderly woman shouted from a distance, "Where did these little girls come from? Hurry up and stop." Qiao Xian sneered and calmly said, "Just ignore her." The maids chuckled and responded, "Who is this old woman? She's shouting, that's right, who does she think she's scaring? Hey, don't say that." She suddenly shouted like this, "It really scared me, me too, me too." Seeing the maids unperturbed, Mrs. Guan grew angrier. She gritted her teeth and scolded, "How dare you be so arrogant the moment you arrive? Madame Xiao." Mrs. Guan, unable to contain her anger, addressed Qiao Xian with frustration. "This must be Madame Xiao, right? I'm the deputy prefect's wife. Madame Xiao, you've just arrived. Why don't you rest more? You seem to be in such a good mood." Li Xia glared at Nanny Ding and rebuked, "Auntie, were you the one shouting just now? Our madam is pregnant. You're scaring her with your sudden loud shouting. If anything happens to our madam, can you bear the responsibility?" Nanny Ding and Mrs. Guan were taken aback. Madame Xiao was pregnant? Despite being pregnant, she had endured the hardships to be with her husband. Nanny Ding smiled, I didn't know that Madame Xiao was pregnant. I deserve to be scolded. Please forgive me, Madame Xiao. I'll be more careful in the future. I'm also concerned. These flowers were meticulously cared for by my wife. It wasn't easy for them to look this beautiful. It's a shame to pick them. Madame Xiao, do you think we should tell the girls to stop? Mrs. Guan added, Madame Xiao, I wonder what your plans are for the flowers. It's spring, and you've just arrived. I was thinking of hosting a flower viewing banquet in a few days to invite all the ladies to appreciate the blossoms. If the flowers are gone, if you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know your report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1649. Furious Qiao Xian shot her a glance and nonchalantly remarked, so what if they are gone? They're just a few flowers. I ordered them to be picked because I value them. Who says a flower viewing banquet must have actual flowers? It's just a title, Mrs. Guan, don't take it too seriously. Or did Mrs. Guan assign someone to tend to these flowers and forbid me from picking them? Mrs. Guan was on the verge of exploding. Over the years, she had dealt with 7 wives of the prefect, each with varying degrees of intelligence, temperament, and attitude. However, Madame Xiao was the first to barge in without any regard for the reputation of others. It was one thing not to care about others' reputations, but did she not realize who she was? She was the wife of the deputy prefect. Did she understand that for her husband to smoothly handle official matters and live peacefully in An's province, he had to rely on his own husband, an idiot? Was she not afraid of retaliation from her husband? Lord Xiao was the primus and a confidant of the crown prince. What was the matter with him? How could he marry such a ridiculous wife? It was no wonder they were exiled to such a place. Madame Xiao, you must be joking. They're just a few flowers. If you like them, feel free to pick them. However, once they're picked, these flowers will be gone. You'll find it difficult to enjoy them tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, Forcing a smile, Mrs. Guan said. Qiao Xian sneered. That is none of your business. Mrs. Guan felt a wave of dizziness and gritted her teeth. You don't need me to do anything? I specifically had someone take good care of those flowers. Qiao Xian had no intention of picking the flowers. Her aim was to lure Mrs. Guan and observe her reaction. At this moment, she was here too, making fun of her. Qiao Xian smiled and signaled Mian to come back. She scrutinized Mrs. Guan and raised an eyebrow. Deputy Prefect mentioned yesterday that you weren't feeling well, but your complexion looks very good, your eyes are bright, your voice is loud, and your legs seem strong. I really can't tell where you're feeling unwell. Did you purposefully avoid greeting me? Mrs. Guan's eyes widened. Mrs. Guan's breath grew heavier, and she nearly burst into curses. Bully, this is too much. All right, just you wait. Do you really think you're so great just because you're the wife of the prefect? Do you think you can act so atrociously and lord over me? I'll let her know that I'm not to be trifled with and that I can't afford to offend you. Madam Xiao, you've misunderstood. Mrs. Guan sounded a little angry and cold. At this moment, she couldn't squeeze out a smile anymore. I was indeed not feeling well yesterday. I'm better today. I see. It seems that I misunderstood you, Mrs. Guan. Mrs. Guan smiled but didn't say anything. She thought to herself, you're not just misunderstood, you're simply unreasonable. Qiao Xian glanced at Nanny Ding. Don't make such a big fuss in the future. I won't hold it against you this time, but if you scare me next time, it won't be so easy. Nanny Ding's heart trembled, and she hurriedly bowed her head with a smile. Thank you for being magnanimous, Madam Xiao. These words were true. She was genuinely a little afraid. Qiao Xian's belly was not bulging yet, indicating that she must be pregnant within 3 months. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know it report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1650. The Deputy Prefect's wife is really arrogant. Pregnant women within the first 3 months are the most delicate. Any fright might lead to serious consequences. Additionally, Qiao Xian didn't require concrete evidence. If anything happened, she could simply blame Mrs. Guan for causing the distress, and it would be disastrous for Mrs. Guan. How could the unborn child of the prefect's wife be compared to a servant by the deputy prefect's wife? Even if she didn't pay with her life, the consequences would be severe. Qiao Xian departed with the maids, leaving Mrs. Guan glaring at her retreating figure. In reality, the maids hadn't picked many flowers. It was still just a small bunch. Mrs. Guan, however, found the flowers vexing. Not only were they an eyesore, but they also irritated her. She was seething with anger. This garden had originally been hers. The former prefect's wife, who was an invalid, never left the house and didn't appreciate these things. Mrs. Guan had long considered this piece of land as her own territory. But who would have expected such a difficult person to come? Taking a deep breath, Mrs. Guan ordered coldly, dig up all the roses in this area and replace them with chrysanthemums. Yes, madam. Nanny Ding, nursing a grudge against Qiao Xian and her maids for ridiculing her, answered loudly and directed the maids to uproot the plants. She was at least a bit more sensible. Which prefect's wife wouldn't give her some respect? The response to not being greeted politely with a smile and a respectful Nanny Ding was really infuriating. Enraged, Mrs. Guan returned to her room, slammed the coffee table, and nearly shattered the teacup. How can there be such a shameless and domineering person? Who does she think she is? I'm so angry, so angry. Furious, Mrs. Guan gasped for breath. If Nanny Ding had been more sensible, she would have tried to console Mrs. Guan. However, feeling humiliated herself and harboring anger, she found Mrs. Guan scolding Qiao Xian to be rather satisfying. Instead of calming her down, Nanny Ding exacerbated the situation. During breakfast, while Qiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan were dining, Qiao returned and reported about the removal of the roses and Chinese roses. Mrs. Guan ordered the planting of chrysanthemums, claiming she was tired of roses. It seems like she deliberately opposed Mrs. Guan and wanted to provoke her. This Mrs. Guan is incredibly infuriating. Although Qiao Xian had been assertive, she hadn't demeaned or insulted Mrs. Guan. Asking someone to pick a few flowers wasn't a significant offense. At most, she had exchanged a few words with her. But had she done something wrong? When the prefect's wife arrived, the deputy prefect's wife, Mrs. Guan, pretended not to be aware and didn't even show her face. So, why couldn't Qiao Xian jest with her? It was preposterous. She hadn't come here to be mistreated. She was the prefect's wife, while Mrs. Guan was merely the deputy prefect's wife. Qiao Xian picked a few flowers in the garden and agitated her. How could Mrs. Guan slap her own face like this? It seemed like Mrs. Guan didn't take her seriously at all and treated this place as her personal territory. The deputy prefect's wife has quite the temper. Qiao Xian grinned. Xiao Yunduan arched an eyebrow. What did she do? Qiao Xian smiled, hearing that he was ready to support her. It's nothing, my husband. Don't worry about these trivial matters, I can handle them. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1651. Two Bully Qiao Xian instructed Li Qiao, summon Kaiyun, Kaiyue, Ms. Song, and Ms. Miao. Inform them to halt their work. Let them know that I have a fondness for these flowers and want to keep them for my enjoyment. Anyone daring to defy will be subject to punishment and expulsion. Understood, madam. Li Qiao swiftly turned on her heels and sprinted away, fearful that the flower beds might be uprooted if she delayed. The flowers and trees were well established, with deep roots that had likely grown for numerous years. Eradicating them all would be a formidable task. When Li Qiao and the others arrived, the four maids had not yet started clearing the roses. Li Qiao rushed to the rose garden and reported to Qiao Xian. The maids hesitated, reluctant to take action. The prefect's wife held a higher status than the deputy prefect's wife. How could they dare to defy the prefect's wife's orders? However, each prefect's tenure in this place was short-lived. The longest stayed for less than 3 years, while the briefest departure occurred in less than half a year. On the other hand, the deputy prefect's wife and her husband had resided in this region for a decade. If they obeyed the prefect's wife now, who would bear the consequences when she departed, and the deputy prefect's wife sought retribution? One maid, with a forced smile, said to Li Qiao, "Miss, this is Mrs. Guan's directive. If we go against it, it won't end well." "Miss, why don't you speak to Mrs. Guan yourself?" Li Qiao glanced at them, showing no intention to make things difficult. "Of course. I'll inform Mrs. Guan immediately. You may leave now." "Thank you for your understanding, miss." "Thank you, miss." The four maids felt relieved but remained standing hesitantly at the side. Li Qiao led Kaiyun and Kaiyue to the west yard, while Ms. Song and Ms. Miao stayed behind, engaging in conversation with the four maids. Despite being newcomers, they had no intentions of staying within their own boundaries. Since there were no servants in the east courtyard, they saw no reason not to socialize. With Qiao Xian's pregnancy, the east yard was off limits. However, if they were to establish a presence in the west yard, building relationships with the existing staff was essential. Li Qiao, maintaining a polite tone, stood in front of Mrs. Guan. Yet, the very fact that she was here made Mrs. Guan so infuriated that her facial expression seemed distorted. Inwardly cursing, Mrs. Guan pondered how Qiao Xian had boldly contradicted her earlier. She had even reprimanded her servants. Now, she couldn't even remove the flowers she had planted. She was obliged to stay because Qiao Xian liked them. This felt like bullying to Mrs. Guan, an unbearable injustice. Mrs. Guan harbored animosity towards all the prefect's wives, considering them intruders who had assumed her husband's position. She despised this place, so why did they come here? Their disdainful expressions were irksome. Yet, of all the prefect's wives, it was the current woman she loathed the most. "How considerate of you to let us keep them if Madame Xiao likes them," Mrs. Guan said through gritted teeth, attempting a smile that almost broke two of them. Internally seething, Mrs. Guan thought, what else can I do? I'm only the wife of a deputy prefect. She's the superior official and can crush people. How can I reject someone who sends such brazen words through her servants? Qiao, grinning, responded, thank you, Mrs. Guan. Our madam will surely be delighted. Mrs. Guan almost retorted with a sarcastic bah. She refrained, wondering why she should care whether Qiao Xian was happy or not. Qiao and her companions returned to the garden, instructing the 4 maids to replant the roses that were about to be uprooted and distribute them. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know it report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1652. Be careful. The 4 maidservants were relieved and readily agreed to the task. Qiao returned to report to Qiao Xian. Smiling, Qiao Xian turned to Xiao Yunduan, saying, Husband, this is the life. Even in the capital, where Xiao Yunduan enjoyed fame and served as the crown prince's right-hand man, the couple was still overshadowed by more influential families. Though Qiao Xian wasn't one to suppress her emotions, she had to exercise caution. Regardless of her location, she found herself bowing to others. Now in An's province, as the prefect's wife, she held a superior position. Even if it was just a facade, couldn't she be straightforward? With her status, there was no need to beat around the bush. Xiao Yunduan indulgently smiled. Deputy Prefect Guan and his wife have deep roots in An's province after more than 10 years. My wife, you need to be vigilant when interacting with others. And make sure to bring Ai with you. The deputy prefect couple weren't virtuous, and Xiao Yunduan intended to settle scores with the deputy prefect soon. If his wife was going to challenge Mrs. Guan, he would be there to back her up. However, the possibility of Mrs. Guan seeking revenge covertly couldn't be ruled out, so caution was imperative. Qiao Xian nodded. Rest assured, husband, I will. Xiao Yunduan added, furthermore, don't stoop to her level, and try to keep your temper in check. If there's anything, let me know. Understood. After breakfast, Xiao Yunduan walked with Qiao Xian in the yard for a while before heading to the government office. Unraveling the intricacies of this place and discerning whether the people were merely humans or something more elusive would prove to be a challenging task. In the past, the prefects were all here to slack off and think of ways to leave quickly. They did not care at all. It was not an exaggeration to say that Deputy Prefect Guan was in charge of everything in An's province's government office. Those constables and scribes all acted according to Deputy Prefect Guan's intentions. The bailiffs below were probably the same. Qiao Xian asked someone to take out the strawberry seedlings from the flower pot and plant them in the backyard. She had also brought a lot of potatoes and cantaloupe seeds. Previously, she had asked Zheng Sang and the others to come over and ask around. If there were suitable fields, she would buy them. She did not know if she could buy them. Sun Qian went out for a while. When he returned, he brought Zheng Sang and the other 2 back. Qiao Xian was very happy. Zheng Sang and the other 2 were also very happy. After exchanging greetings, they told Qiao Xian everything. The 3 local big families, the Mei family, the Hua family, the Fan family, and the largest 3 bandit dens, the 6 Ridges Min family stronghold, the 6 Harmonies fort of Snail Mountain, and the Tiger Roar Gang Tiger Head stronghold. Zheng Sang and the other 2 had inquired about the latest news, as well as some gossiping news that was unknown if it was true. There were also some stories about this Deputy Prefect Guan. Qiao Xian listened carefully and asked a few questions from time to time. Some Zheng Sang and the others could answer, but some could not. But Qiao Xian knew more about this place now after hearing the details. She would tell this to Xiao Yunduan later. In a swift turn of events, noon arrived, and Xiao Yunduan dispatched a message through a messenger. The note conveyed that he would be leisurely spending time with Deputy Prefect Guan at the clan in front of the governmental office, adopting a nonchalant and casual demeanor. Consequently, he mentioned he wouldn't be returning promptly. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know it report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1653. Buying land. Xiao Xian extended an invitation to Jing Sang, urging him to stay for lunch, and the two continued their conversation afterward. To Xiao Xian's astonishment, they successfully acquired 1,000 mu of land in the southern suburbs. A middle-class affluent family was planning to relocate, selling off all their properties and fields except the ancestral home. Despite the nominal 1,000 mu, the actual area exceeded 1,200 mu. Jing Sang managed to secure the land at a remarkably low price, as those interested in purchasing such vast expanses couldn't afford them. Intrigued by the development, Xiao Xian expressed keen interest in visiting them in a couple of days. Coincidentally, it was the right time of the year to commence planting on the newly acquired land. Additionally, Jing Sang had purchased a sizable house in compliance with Xiao Xian's specifications. It needed to be large and well located. The chosen residence was a spacious one on Huayan Alley, the third street in the eastern part of the city. The courtyard, spanning over 12 mu, boasted 3 entrances and a garden. The new residence was conveniently located, allowing a carriage ride of just over a quarter of an hour to reach the state office. Jing Sang informed Xiao Xian that An's prefecture city was expansive but sparsely populated, with many vacant houses available for sale. Having already arranged for the house to be cleaned, Xiao Xian informed Jing Sang of her plan to visit them the next day. She noticed that Jing Sang and the others were still staying at the inn, prompting her to suggest, "You can move into the house now. It's not too late. Take Liu Fu, Aunt Song, and the others with you. They can stay there as well. Take some time to inspect the garden and consider where to establish a martial arts training ground. It will serve as a training facility in the future. We have Sun Bai, Sun Qian, Ai, and others here now. You don't need to worry. When we require your assistance, Lord will seek it. In case the government office is recruiting, would you mind holding a nominal position?" With an official title, they could openly accompany Xiao Yunduan. Both Xiao Yunduan and Xiao Xian couldn't treat them as mere servants, so an alternative justification was necessary. Jing Sang agreed without hesitation, adding with a smile, "Well, discuss it with Lord and Madam later. Well, serve as bailiffs." Despite their rough demeanor, being bailiffs seemed fitting. Xiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan had been concerned that Jing Sang might be displeased, considering his past as a general. However, he suggested it himself, much to Xiao Xian's amusement. "If you're comfortable with that, it's perfect." Jing Sang remained calm, saying, "Madam, you're overthinking. There's nothing to worry about." With that settled, Liu Fu, Ms. Song, and Ms. Miao began to make the move. Xia Sanjiao and his family joined them. Qiao Qiao and Qing Lian, not wanting to part, eagerly inquired if they could visit and play with Madame, Li Xia, and Li Qiao more often in the future. Xiao Xian happily agreed, allowing them to stay for a few days before making the move. Excited, the two girls cheered, prompting Liu Fu, Xiao Er, and others to also express their eagerness to stay and play. Xiao Xian responded with a smile. As the group departed, the east courtyard became noticeably emptier. Fortunately, they gained some companions along the way. During the journey, everyone became familiar with each other, providing ample opportunities to observe their behavior and temperament in various situations. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1654. The seed. They were all carefully chosen, ensuring that Ms. Song and her team wouldn't be short-handed during their absence. Within the expansive mansion, Ms. Song and Ms. Miao were preparing meals for everyone, while Xia Sanjiao and his family took care of various menial tasks. If the need arose, they could easily acquire 3 or 4 additional servants in the future. Prior to their departure, they instructed someone to keep an eye on the city gate. Upon the anticipated arrival of Wu Guan and the others in 2 days, they were to be directed straight to the mansion. Jing Sang agreed to each instruction. As he was about to leave, Jing Sang hesitated briefly before deciding to share. "Madam, there's something I heard through hearsay. I can't vouch for its accuracy, but I believe it's best to inform you. Please take it casually, indifferently. A few days ago, I accidentally overheard some news. It appears that there might be an issue with the spring plowing seeds in An's province this year. The Mei, Hua, and Fan families seem to be causing a stir about something. This could be a significant matter, and if mishandled, it might lead to a substantial problem. I intended to inquire further, but I couldn't uncover any concrete information. Therefore, I'm uncertain if it's true or not. Nonetheless, please advise my lord to exercise caution. If this information holds true, there's a high probability it might be targeted at him. Qiao Xian was taken aback and sincerely bowed to Zheng Sang. She addressed him seriously, "Thank you, Brother Zheng, this news is of utmost importance to us." "Hey, don't, Zheng Sang hastily moved aside, smiling in embarrassment. "Madam, please don't be like this. How can I accept this? Besides, I can't confirm the authenticity of this information." Qiao Xian shook her head with a smile. "Even if it turns out to be false, Brother Zheng, you have served as a valuable reminder for Lord. I am grateful to you as well. We must remain vigilant about this matter and make the necessary preparations." Feeding the people was a paramount concern. Without sustenance, all other considerations became inconsequential. Spring plowing was the most important thing of the year for the commoners. If anything went wrong, then Deputy Prefect Guan, who was always smiling, and the three big families, who were obviously not to be trifled with, would do something behind the scenes, and Xiao Yunduan would be put in a passive position. This was very dangerous. Zheng Sang had reminded them of something important, so Qiao Xian was very grateful that they had more time to prepare. Zheng Sang felt even more self-conscious upon hearing her gratitude. "It's the least I can do." Xiao Yunduan returned before 3 in the afternoon. Having just arrived at the government office, he sensed countless pairs of eyes observing his every move from a not-too-distant vantage point. They meticulously analyzed each action, extracting numerous details about him. There was no immediate need for him to plunge into overtime upon arrival and inquire about everything. Aware that Mrs. Guan might have propagated rumors of Qiao Xian's supposed arrogance, he chose to adopt a more laid-back approach. Consequently, he gathered everyone for a morning meeting, engaged in a casual conversation with Deputy Prefect Guan, and enjoyed a leisurely meal. In the afternoon, he lingered for a while, perusing some inconsequential documents before heading back. Recognizing the value of a measured pace, Xiao Yunduan saw no urgency in hastening matters at the government office for a day or two. More haste, less speed. There had to be a way to find relaxation. His wife and the child in her womb needed his care even more. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know your report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1655, Qiao Xian is really calm. Qiao Xian was overjoyed to see him back. For pregnant women, nothing was more precious than the company of their loved ones. She asked with a smile, "Aren't you busy, husband?" Her joy multiplied when she heard his sweet assurance that her company was more important, choosing to accompany her in the afternoon. The sunlight was radiant at this hour, with several large trees in the garden casting a broad shade, their thick branches reaching up. Feeling the confinement of staying indoors during the vibrant spring, Xiao Yunduan decided to join Xiao Xian in the garden. Li Xia and the others thoughtfully brought out a long bamboo couch, placing it in the shady spot of the garden. A small coffee table adorned with a beautiful tablecloth held an array of treats, fruit plates, pastries, snacks, and candied plums. A small stove nearby crackled with burning charcoal, and a copper kettle emitted white steam. Li Xia efficiently brewed tea and served it to them. Kaiyue and the other little girls giggled and played around, engaged in cheerful activities with grass. Mrs. Guan, keeping an eye on the east yard, knew about Xiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan's activities. Despite her annoyance, Mrs. Guan had resolved not to divulge any details about the east courtyard, forcing herself to eat until full. She concealed her frustration, sneering at Nanny Ding and mocking Qiao Xian for being pretentious and disgusting. Qiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan had strategically chosen a location with no cover around the tree, preventing anyone from hiding or eavesdropping. This only added to Mrs. Guan's irritation. In high spirits, Qiao Xian settled down with Xiao Yunduan, updating him on Jing Sang's visit. Xiao Yunduan was surprised to learn that Jing Sang had already purchased a house and fields, prompting a smile. Brother Zheng is indeed very capable. Qiao Xian beamed. I mentioned that I would visit the mansion tomorrow. Are you busy? Not at all. I'll accompany you. Xiao Yunduan immediately agreed. That's wonderful. They exchanged smiles. Qiao Xian proceeded to share all the information Jing Sang had conveyed to her. While Xiao Yunduan couldn't verify its accuracy, the details weren't far-fetched. Even Xie Jingrong, unaware of the latest news, would find this information crucial. Xiao Yunduan's demeanor turned serious upon hearing about the seed issue. Speaking in a low voice, he remarked, if not for Brother Zheng's reminder, I might have overlooked this. Spring plowing is imminent, and it's indeed a critical matter. Any mishap could lead to civil unrest, and that's no trivial matter. Although they were distanced from the capital, making it less likely for the princes to target him as before, they might seize this opportunity to harm him. Qiao Xian reassured him gently, now that we're aware, we have ample time to make arrangements. Money is not an issue for us. Why don't we procure additional seeds? Remaining calm, Qiao Xian continued, perhaps due to the pregnancy, my space hasn't shown signs of upgrading, and the land hasn't expanded further. However, the fertile farmland in my space still amounts to 4,000 mu. With rice and wheat ripening twice a year, the storage compartment already holds at least 3 to 5 million caddies. Even if a problem arises, we can discreetly use it as advanced seeds, ensuring a better yield than those outside. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1656, New Manor. Xiao Yunduan nodded, pondered for a moment, and suggested, it seems we need to send a trustworthy individual to Yuzhang and seek Brother Yuzhang's assistance. The Yuezheng family boasted extensive connections in the business world, making them an ideal source for procuring seeds with sufficient funds. While Qiao Xian considered Zhao Shu reliable, she acknowledged that Yuezheng Xiao's expertise in business surpassed his. Since Xiao Yunduan had no intention of asking Zhao Shu for help, she opted not to mention him. Instead, she smiled and said, in that case, please ask young Master Yuezheng if he can assist us in acquiring various farming tools. I still plan to do some farming. Xiao Yunduan chuckled and agreed, all right. The following morning, they visited the mansion on Huayan Alley, 3rd Street in the east of the city together. Jing Sang, Ms. Song, and Ms. Miao were already waiting. Qiao Qiao and Qing Lian approached Qiao Xian with eager eyes, restrained only by their mother's warning not to throw themselves at Madame Xiao. After spending some time in the main hall, Jing Sang led them on a tour of the house. When An's province was established, it occupied a vast area, but the population growth had been slow. In recent years, more people had migrated, and the mansions built by the affluent in the city were truly expansive. This three-way house was exceptionally large, covering over 12 mu. Qiao Xian estimated it to be closer to 15 mu. The garden, especially, stood out, surpassing even the one in the prefect's office. Despite having been neglected for a long time, the cleaning efforts by Jing Sang and others left it still looking somewhat barren, lacking flowers. A few naturally growing trees added a touch of vitality. A lake within the garden, spanning nearly 2 mu, boasted clear water with aquatic plants growing on the shore. Remarkably, it was a living water source, fed by a spring in the lake that connected secretly to the outside, allowing water to flow. There was also a rectangular pavilion situated by the lake, offering an excellent spot for admiring the scenery or engaging in fishing. Qiao Xian particularly liked this place. Observing that the pavilion appeared a bit weathered, she contemplated having someone restore it. After thorough discussions, they circled the northeast corner of the garden and renovated the wall bordering the east courtyard. Transforming it into a martial arts training ground to accommodate daily training needs, they cultivated a cadre of servants with robust martial capabilities. The following day, they departed from the city to inspect the farmland they had acquired in the southern suburbs. Similar to other regions, acquiring extensive paddy fields proved challenging, while drylands were comparatively more accessible. However, this time, fortune smiled upon them. The plot of land turned out to be flat ground at the exit of a valley. Although small hills dotted the landscape, it was generally level, a rarity in the surrounding mountainous terrain. Surrounded by wasteland, one side bordered the mountain range, while the other extended with small undulating hills. Weeds covered the area, and shrubs and vines claimed territory everywhere. Even medium-sized trees grew sporadically. Qiao Xian pointed at the barren yet lush land, outlining a circle. Tugging at Xiao Yunduan's sleeve, she proudly declared, "Husband, I want all of this land. Let's start with 3,000 mu." Xiao Yunduan responded with a smile, "Okay." As the newly appointed official of the region, Xiao Yunduan found it amusing that his wife desired to claim a piece of wasteland. The procedure was remarkably convenient. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1657, Buying Land. In any case, they decided to sell the land at market price and engage in business. However, a mere 1,000 mu was not sufficient. Even 4,000 mu wasn't much, considering the limitations on developing plots suitable for easy farming. High mountains made cultivation inconvenient. Qiao Xian envisioned cultivating potatoes across the land. She aimed to elevate the status of potatoes in this region. Potatoes had proven to be highly productive. Both Lu Min and Gu Zhio had achieved commendable results and earned praise from the imperial court. Upon completing their 3-year terms, promotion for the duo was almost certain. Despite An's province's vast marshes, the scarcity of fertile fields resulted in insufficient food production. Promoting potatoes could potentially alleviate the food shortage. While 4,000 mu fell short of meeting their needs, it sufficed as a demonstration plot. Wu Guan and the others, including Jing Sang, were present that day. They relocated to a house 500 meters away in Huayan Alley and went to the state office to meet Xiao Yunduan. Xiao Yunduan informed them of his intention to send a letter to Yuzhang, and he requested they organize a trip for its delivery. Zheng Sang volunteered to go and promised to bring along another person. The journey to Yuzhang would take merely 2.5 days. Indeed, An's prefecture city was close to Yuzhang province city, only 500 miles away. However, the rugged mountain paths extended the travel time. Otherwise, it could be covered in less than 2 days. Xiao Yunduan agreed without objection, handing the carefully prepared letter to Jing Sang. He confirmed his departure for the following morning. In addition to purchasing 3,000 mu of flat land, Qiao Xian also acquired 50,000 mu of wilderness. Upon discovering this, Deputy Prefect Guan and Mrs. Guan burst into laughter, nearly dropping the teacups in their hands. How naive. They've even bought such a worthless piece of land. I wonder what they plan to do with it. The couple mocked Xiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan for a while. Mrs. Guan couldn't help but comment, those lands might not be worth much individually, but altogether, those 50,000 mu of wilderness amount to 50,000 taels of silver. And the large house in the east of the city, 2,000 taels of silver, along with thousands of mu of wasteland. That adds up to 60,000 taels of silver, doesn't it? They bought so many things on the day of their arrival. Ms. Qiao's set of mahogany furniture isn't cheap, and the tea table is made of inlaid snails. How do they have so much money? Deputy Prefect Guan felt a bit uneasy when she mentioned this. An's province was in turmoil, with numerous demands for money, yet his income was limited. Despite accumulating some wealth over the years, he didn't possess 100,000 taels of silver. The new prefect had only been there for a few days, and he had already spent nearly 100,000 taels of money. Even though it was his own money, the comparison was quite stifling. Deputy Prefect Guan pondered further, they're buying houses and land. Could it be that they plan to settle in An's? Mrs. Guan grew even angrier, sneering, that depends on whether they have the capability to stay here. Deputy Prefect Guan nodded in agreement. Madam, you're right. I think they've been here for a few days. It's time to host a welcome banquet. Madam, go and talk to Madam Xiao so we can send an invitation. Mrs. Guan had no desire to see Qiao Xian. Whenever she thought of her, the image of her proud demeanor and the term, paying respect, came to mind, leaving her utterly disgusted. She pretended to be indifferent, as she hadn't visited the East Yard to pay her respects, and Xiao Xian hadn't sent anyone to confront her, so she saw no need to engage with her. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1658. Liu Fu is happy. Observing her clear reluctance, Deputy Prefect Xuan offered advice. She's the wife of the prefect, and you're the wife of the deputy prefect. You'll cross paths many times in the future. Don't let anger get the better of you, it only brings you down to her level. Mrs. Xuan sighed. I won't stoop to her level. It's just that looking at such a person makes me unhappy. Old master is right. I can't avoid her from now on. Otherwise, she'll think I'm afraid of her. Reluctantly, Mrs. Xuan visited Xiao Xian that day. Xiao Xian was in discussions with Songshi and Mianmian about farming, and Liu Fu, who was also keenly interested, had tagged along with Qiao Qiao, Qing Lian, and Xiao Er from the day before. Xiao Xian asked them to stay for a few days. Liu Fu's ears perked up at the mention of staying. His face revealed envy, catching Xiao Xian's attention. Amused, she asked if he wanted to assist Songshi with errands, as Songshi couldn't manage everything alone. Qin Yan, who was now working for Xiao Yunduan, showed no interest in these matters. Liu Fu eagerly nodded, expressing his willingness. Children from less privileged backgrounds mature early, burdened with the daily concern of putting food on the table. Liu Fu, in particular, envied those with fields. As he grew bolder, he began fantasizing about owning a large plot of land. Xiao Xian, noticing his eagerness, couldn't bring herself to disappoint him. With a smile, she said, "All right, you can run errands with Songshi and handle accounts with Mianmian. Once you've learned everything in a few years, they'll hire you to manage the large fields." How does that sound? Liu Fu's joy was evident as he nodded enthusiastically and pledged, "I'll be an adult in 2 years. I'll definitely seek guidance from elder brother Songshi and sister Mianmian." Amidst laughter, the conversation shifted to hiring people for farming when Mrs. Xuan arrived. Xiao Xian, noticing her, furrowed her brows slightly, asked Songshi and the others to leave, and had Qiao invite Mrs. Xuan inside. Mrs. Xuan entered with a laugh, expressing, "I've been wanting to come and chat with you for a while, but I've been unexpectedly busy these days. Today, I happen to have some free time, and I hope I'm not disturbing you, Madam Xiao." She took a seat on the left side of Xiao Xian with a smile. Internally amused, Xiao Xian noted Mrs. Xuan's competitive nature. The impact of her words lingered, pushing Xiao Xian to find ways not to appear inferior. Yet, she dismissed the thought. Considering their respective positions as the wife of the deputy prefect and the wife of the prefect, deliberately avoiding confrontation seemed futile. In a good mood and with no immediate need for confrontation, Xiao Xian opted not to tease her further. She greeted Mrs. Xuan with a smile. "Mrs. Xuan, what brings you here today?" Mrs. Xuan responded with a smile, "Yes, I have something to tell you today. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1659. Reception Banquet. Madam Xiao, you've been in Anne's province for a few days, and it seems you've had enough rest and recovery. A reception banquet is in order, and I'll be the host. Madam Xiao, I hope you'll honor me by attending tomorrow night, Mrs. Xuan proposed. Xiao Xian, considering it an excellent opportunity to meet the local nobility and officials' wives, had this in mind. However, to maintain the image she had projected in front of Mrs. Xuan, she had to uphold it for now. Thus, she frowned and instinctively displayed a look of disdain. After a moment of contemplation, she reluctantly nodded, "Very well, Mrs. Xuan. You can make the arrangements. I'll be there." Mrs. Xuan nearly choked on those words, inwardly cursing, "Who told you to act so high and mighty? You're so arrogant, you're out of your mind," and so on. "Great, then the reception banquet will take place in the garden tomorrow." I'll send someone over to escort you, Madame Qiao. Mrs. Guan forced a smile, got up, and declared, I have matters to attend to. I won't disturb your rest. Goodbye. Qiao Xian simply replied, You may leave now. Mrs. Guan's body visibly trembled, and she almost seemed on the verge of spewing blood. She turned around, left with a straight face, and Qiao Xian and her servants burst into laughter. Qiao suggested, we should tease her more. Those from the west courtyard are so irritating. Kaiyue, Mianmian, and the others agreed, voicing their disdain. The nannies and maids from the west courtyard frequently approached them in various ways, attempting to get close and inquire about their master. It was laughable. Did they truly believe that they could win them over with peanuts, melon seeds, snacks, an embroidered handkerchief, and 2 rough silk flowers? They were delusional. Mrs. Guan experienced a burning humiliation in front of Qiao Xian, feeling a fiery turmoil in her chest. She couldn't help but curse in frustration, letting out her anger before managing to suppress it. Subconsciously, she lowered her gaze to her attire. To save face in front of Qiao Xian, she had meticulously dressed herself before meeting her. The outfit was tailored from the finest brocades from Jiangnan, adorned with exquisite and elegant flowers, radiating nobility. The pearl-studded jade hairpins in her hair were among her most expensive accessories, featuring thumb-sized pearls that were round and snow-white, paired with dazzling and magnificent jade. However, when she presented herself to Qiao Xian, the latter didn't spare her outfit a glance, and even the hairpins on Qiao Xian's maids, Lixia and Liqiao, seemed equally exquisite. This dismissal made Mrs. Guan so furious that her face flushed with heat. The shame deepened as she noticed the emerald bracelet on Qiao Xian's wrist. Mrs. Guan acknowledged that not only her attire but even all her jewelry combined might not match the value of a single piece worn by Qiao Xian. The emerald bracelet spoke volumes of its supreme-grade quality, and even those with little knowledge of such things could sense its extraordinary nature with just a few glances. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1660, feeling offended back in her room, Mrs. Guan grew angrier as she dwelled on the encounter. After venting her frustration, she sneered maliciously. Doesn't she know where she is? She's the one flaunting her wealth. Someone will come down from the mountain one day, The thought of them being robbed one day brought a hint of satisfaction to Mrs. Guan, a dark look flashing across her eyes. Nanny Ding, noticing Mrs. Guan's emotions, tried to console her, and they began discussing the arrangements for the banquet the next day. The reception banquet had already been prepared, and the invitations were ready. It was an event that had to take place sooner or later. Nanny Ding swiftly dispatched people to deliver invitations and provided the menu to the kitchen for arrangements. The opera troupe, having been informed a few days ago, was ready to perform. Mrs. Guan, torn between her desire to showcase her hosting abilities and her reluctance to make the reception too grand for Qiao Xian, found herself annoyed. In the end, her inclination to flaunt prevailed. Mrs. Guan meticulously inquired about the banquet details and made specific arrangements. The following day, Mrs. Guan organized a reception banquet in the garden, while Deputy-Prefect Guan and the 3 major families collectively reserved the best local restaurant to welcome Xiao Yunduan. Around 10 in the morning, guests began to arrive one after another in the backyard of the state government office. Qiao Xian wasted no time and headed to the reception pavilion in the garden. Although the reception was in her honor, being held in the government office made her the host. Arriving early seemed more appropriate, allowing her to greet the guests individually and gain a better understanding of the situation. When Qiao Xian arrived with Lixia, Liqiao, Kaiyue, Kaihua, Qiao, and Qing Lian, only 2 or 3 ladies were present, and Mrs. Guan was engaged in conversation with them. Upon noticing Qiao Xian and her attendants approaching, Mrs. Guan's smile froze, and an instinctive feeling of territorial violation crept in. Strangely enough, she hadn't experienced this sensation even when other prefect wives visited. Or if she did, it was fleeting and quickly dissipated. Yet, the intrusion of Madame Qiao into her perceived territory was particularly potent for Mrs. Guan. It almost overwhelmed her, causing her to suppress a smile and curse inwardly. Mrs. Guan took a deep breath, glanced at the three ladies, and forced a smile. "This is Madame Qiao. Let's welcome her." As they approached, Mrs. Guan chuckled. "The guests haven't arrived yet, but here you are. A distinguished guest like you should be the grand finale." Qiao Xian smiled in response. "Certainly, important guests should be the highlight, but being the host, it's more appropriate for me to arrive early." Her gaze shifted to the three ladies, and she continued with a smile. "Allow me to introduce." Mrs. Guan found herself on the defensive in this round. Gritting her teeth, she spoke with a forced smile. "This is the first Madam and second Mrs. Wen, and here is elder Miss Wen, the daughter of the first Madam. And this is Madame Qiao, the new wife of the prefect." The two ladies and elder miss from the Wen family greeted Qiao Xian with smiles. Returning the gesture with a gentle smile, Qiao Xian raised her hands. "So you are the ladies of the Wen family. Please, don't stand on ceremony. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1661. Guests. Qiao Xian smiled and complimented eldest Miss Wen on her gentle temperament and outstanding appearance. Eldest Miss Wen responded with a shy smile, bringing joy to the two ladies. First Madam Wen maintained a humble smile. Initially somewhat nervous, the two ladies from the Wen family observed that Madame Qiao exuded a pleasant demeanor, gradually putting them at ease. They engaged in polite conversation with Qiao Xian. Mrs. Guan, however, grew increasingly displeased. With a forced smile, she interrupted and inquired about the health of the Wen family's old master. Unable to contribute much to this topic, Qiao Xian refrained from speaking and instead enjoyed her tea with a smile, allowing the conversation to unfold. The two madams of the Wen family felt a bit uncomfortable discussing their father-in-law's illness on such a festive occasion. Caught in a dilemma, they couldn't ignore Mrs. Guan either. Fortunately, relief came with the arrival of another lady. Mrs. Guan greeted her warmly, recognizing a familiar face. The conversation shifted, and the two Wen ladies breathed a sigh of relief. Mrs. Guan, whether she liked it or not, continued introducing guests to Qiao Xian with a forced smile. Despite her initial anger, she began to numb to the situation. She couldn't halt the introductions, considering Qiao Xian's pivotal role as the distinguished guest in all future banquets. As more guests arrived, the garden buzzed with activity. Fragrant-clad women filled the air with chatter and laughter. Finally, the two madams of the Hua family, one of the three prominent families in An's province, made their entrance. They were accompanied by second Mrs. Hua's two daughters. First Madame Hua had only two sons and no legitimate daughters, but she had three concubine daughters, none of whom accompanied her to the gathering. As one of the three major families, the Hua family held a higher status than the other clans. Upon the arrival of the two madams from the Hua family, the other madams stood up, offering warm greetings to demonstrate their respect. Even Mrs. Guan unconsciously became more polite and displayed a kinder smile. The two madams Hua secretly reveled in their elevated status. With the longest history in An's province and deep roots, the Hua family considered themselves unrivaled. Even officials' wives were courteous, a sign of the respect they commanded. Seated, the two madams Hua, along with their daughters Hua Ruyu and Hua Ruxian, maintained an air of pride even in Qiao Xian's presence. First Madame Hua greeted Qiao Xian as if she were the host, praising An's province's richness, beautiful scenery, and simple-hearted people. "Madame Qiao, being new here, you'll find our place quite delightful once you explore more. I propose we organize a gathering together." Laughter and agreement rippled through the assembly. Qiao Xian responded with a warm smile, her eyes radiating brightness. "First Madame Hua, your words make it sound enticing. I'm genuinely interested. I plan to explore the area soon, and we can certainly arrange a celebration together." Supportive smiles and expressions of honor filled the room. After a while, the two madams of the Mei family arrived. The Mei family lacked an old master or old lady, with the eldest son overseeing affairs. The three brothers still resided together. However, Third Madame May was absent that day, and the daughters of the May family did not accompany their mothers to the gathering. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1662, Hope failed. She was dumbfounded. Although the May family possessed abundant local farmland and mountain shops, their primary business centered around wood and furniture. Most family members often traveled for business, and they maintained a peculiar temperament, avoiding close interactions with other family clans. They preferred solitude, distancing themselves from social engagements. The three brothers of the May family were formidable individuals. If provoked, they wouldn't engage in open disputes. Instead, the offending family would gradually experience hardships, ultimately reaching a point of ruin. These repercussions appeared unrelated to the May family on the surface. Initially, nobody suspected the May family's involvement. However, over time, a few discerning individuals began connecting the dots, sharing this information among the prominent families. Soon, none dared to easily offend the May family. Outwardly, the May family maintained an air of calmness, behaving as if they were never involved in anything sinister. The two May family ladies courteously greeted Qiao, the prefect's wife, and then took their seats without further conversation. Exchanging pleasantries seemed unnecessary. However, no one dared to disregard or underestimate them. Several madams smiled, taking the initiative to greet the May family. Qiao, not rushing to establish connections, observed the May family's distinctiveness. Indeed, they differed significantly from other families. Mrs. Xuan felt a bit disappointed. She had anticipated witnessing a spectacle. After all, Qiao's arrogance and conceit left no room for anyone to save face. How could she tolerate any perceived disrespect from the two May family ladies? If she dared to confront them publicly, they would respond with an unyielding attitude. Moreover, they would undoubtedly use their influence to bring harm upon both her and the prefect. However, this was the characteristic nature of the May family. To Mrs. Xuan's surprise, Qiao displayed no reaction at all. There was no indication of her intending to argue with the May family ladies, nor did she exhibit any signs of anger towards them. Disappointed and a bit dumbfounded, Mrs. Xuan suddenly recalled that Madame Qiao appeared different from what she had observed in the past. No, it wasn't just a seeming difference, it was an outright change. Previously, Madame Qiao had consistently presented herself in an annoying manner. Yet today, she greeted everyone with smiles, gentleness, and amiability. Mrs. Xuan grew even more infuriated, internally scolding Qiao for putting on a facade and pretending to be someone she was not. She now understood that Madame Qiao was deliberately here to embarrass her and make her unhappy. She wasn't alone in this realization. Even her husband, Lord Qiao, seemed to be picking a fight with her and her old master. Mrs. Xuan's determination to fight back surged, and she sneered inwardly. Lord Qiao and Madame Qiao held no sway in Anne's province. If they wanted trouble as soon as they arrived, then she wouldn't hold back. The final guests to arrive were the madams and young ladies of the Fan family. The Fan family, along with the Hua family and the May family, constituted the three major families in Anne's province. Currently led by Old Lady Fan, the Fan family had 2 sons and a daughter. Old Lady Fan cherished her daughter greatly and couldn't bear to see her married off. Fearing potential mistreatment in another family, she took it upon herself to find a suitable husband for her. This decision had surprised many. Nevertheless, as long as the Fan family was willing, there were individuals eager to offer their sons as potential matches to gain a powerful in-law like the Fan family. Others had no grounds for objection, and they congratulated the couple during the wedding banquet, saying, "Congratulations. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know each report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1663, biased in this direction. As for the 2 sons of the Fan family, now known as First Old Master Fan and Second Old Master Fan, along with their respective wives, it was none of their concern. Upon hearing the news, Qiao was equally surprised. Doting on a daughter didn't seem to be that straightforward. If he truly favored his daughter, then it was imperative to instill in her the qualities of discernment, knowledge, talent, responsibility, courage, and intelligence. Qiao Xian believed in providing her with adequate protection and support, ensuring she possessed the skills to navigate through life's challenges wherever she went. In the best-case scenario, she would lead a content and fulfilling life. This, Qiao Xian considered genuine love for a daughter. Yet, the fact remained that he favored his daughter over his two sons. Despite having two sons, he chose to keep his daughter at home in pursuit of a suitable son-in-law. In the context of ancient times, was this truly an expression of paternal affection? Had he considered how his sons and daughters-in-law would treat his daughter in his absence? Qiao Xian found his bias towards his daughter somewhat peculiar. Even if they were reluctant to let their daughter face challenges in her in-laws' house, they could have provided more dowry and support for the couple within the Fan family's influential background. They doubted that with the Fan family's status and local influence, the in-laws would dare to separate the couple. Upon learning that old lady Fan was perceived as conceited, prideful, and arbitrary, Qiao Xian wasn't surprised. Such a temperament was inconsistent with taking such drastic measures. Today, the Fan family had dispatched the first Madam, second Mrs. Fan, along with second Mrs. Fan's two daughters, Fan Jing and Fan Xiu. Additionally, the young Madam of the Fan family, Bai Ruerue, and her daughter were present. While first Madam Fan had a legitimate son, Fan Yuzong, the second branch of the family lacked a son, even from a concubine. Fan Ruyan and her husband had a son, Bai Mo, who was only 2 years younger than Fan Yuzong. This time, the atmosphere within the Fan clan was even more vibrant. Madam Lady Qiao had consistently exhibited arbitrary behavior, leveraging her seniority with an air of arrogance and narrow-mindedness. Regardless of the banquet, she would invariably be the last to arrive, a habit that permeated the entire Fan family of women. Today was no exception, and everyone had grown accustomed to it. Mrs. Guan warmly welcomed them and introduced Qiao Xian with a smile. Before first Madam Fan and second Mrs. Fan could utter a word, Fan Ruyan broke into laughter. "I never imagined Madam Xiao to be so young. Lord Xiao is indeed youthful and promising. Anzizu is fortunate to have him as an official. Madam Xiao exudes demure charm, and I feel an instant connection with her." First Madam Fan and second Mrs. Fan exchanged glances, offering smiles that seemed to affirm Fan Ruyan's words. However, a discerning eye could detect a lack of genuine warmth in their expressions. It was clear they were compelled to go along with and support Fan Ruyan, demonstrating a silent understanding between the two. Qiao Xian maintained a polite smile, responding to the seemingly spoiled Fan Ruyan. However, Qiao Xian had no interest in engaging with such a self-righteous individual. Establishing genuine friendship with someone of such demeanor appeared nearly impossible. Either one's status had to significantly surpass hers, eliciting wholehearted flattery, or there was little room for equal footing. Chapter 1664. What a prodigal! If your status is inferior to hers, she will undoubtedly view you with disdain, treating you merely as a lackey to be summoned and manipulated at will. Furthermore, dealing with such an individual could be precarious due to their small-minded nature. A seemingly innocuous statement or minor incident might unknowingly incur her displeasure, leading to unforeseen consequences and potential retaliation. Hence, it is advisable to maintain surface-level politeness and keep a safe distance from such personalities. Unexpectedly, Qiao Xian had already unintentionally irked Fan Ruyan. Upon arriving at An's province, Qiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan promptly purchased a house and land. The laughter wasn't confined to DeputyPrefect and Mrs. Guan, many others chuckled behind their backs. The couple's claim of hailing from the capital only fueled the mockery. The decision to invest in a desolate mountain and wilderness appeared short-sighted to onlookers. Questions arose. Wasn't the spacious courtyard behind the state government office sufficient for their needs? And the extravagant purchase of a separate house for servants seemed wasteful. People struggled to comprehend the couple's motives. Did they plan to stay in this remote area for an extended period? Such a notion was unprecedented. The Fan family, particularly Fan Ruyan, took delight in ridiculing Qiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan. Fan Ruyan, adept at making jests, had been entertaining her mother with tales of their purchases. Connecting the dots, she voiced her concern to her mother. Lord Qiao and Madame Qiao seem so fixated on farmland that they even bought desolate land in the wilderness. Are they hinting that we should provide them with prime farmland? Mom, what if Lord Qiao brings it up? We need a strategy. Old Lady Fan agreed with her daughter's assessment and felt a surge of disdain. Daring to contemplate our benefits and seize them, they will face the consequences. They must be courting death. Tell your brothers to be careful. First Old Master Fan and Second Old Master Fan dismissed the concerns, believing that local officials wouldn't engage in such actions. They considered local officials to be astute individuals, aiming to maintain good relations with prominent local families for effective governance. Their confidence was bolstered by the fact that their Fan clan held a prestigious position among the three great clans, alleviating any apprehensions. In their view, An's province differed from other regions, and even if the prefect harbored any greed, it would likely be limited to monetary interests. The fields, they reasoned, were not beyond his reach. Consequently, they reassured their mother that there was no need for undue worry. However, Fan Rian found her brother's lack of agreement disheartening. She persistently pressed them, expressing her discontent and feeling slighted. Aware that she had initiated the discussion, she vehemently defended her stance, exacerbating the discord with her two brothers, who already harbored disdain for her. This discord displeased Old Lady Fan, prompting her to reprimand her two sons. Taking a firm stand in support of Fan Rian, she lectured them, being cautious is not amiss. Lord Qiao and his wife are even eyeing the wilderness. It's uncertain they won't covet our fields. Rian has a point. We must plan ahead and devise a strategy. We can't afford to lose out. As elder brothers, your considerations must match Rian's thoroughness. The two sons, well aware of their mother's temperament, hesitated to challenge her, understanding the difficulty of pacifying her once angered. Reluctantly, they placated her, as being labeled unfilial was a scenario they could ill afford. Chapter 1665, Remembering Qiao Xian. Therefore, the two old masters of the Fan family promptly apologized to their mother and sister, assuring them that they would attentively consider their viewpoints. Old Lady Fan and Fan Rian's spirits lifted again. Fan Rian had attended the banquet to scrutinize Madame Qiao's appearance. Despite preparing herself to be critical, upon seeing Qiao Xian, she found no fault to pick at. Madame Qiao, young, beautiful, gracious, gentle, and elegant, captivated attention with her splendid attire, emerging as the focal point of the gathering. She possessed an allure that held people's gazes for an extended moment. Feeling somewhat perplexed, Fan Rian couldn't discern whether she was disappointed or not. Despite her uncertainty, she found herself smiling at Qiao Xian, either out of curiosity or a desire to glean information about the genuine noble families in the capital. Even though the prefect of An's prefecture saw frequent turnovers and changes, no prefect had hailed from the capital until Lord Qiao's appointment, making him the first. Yet, despite Fan Rian's attempt to extend goodwill, it wasn't apparent to onlookers. She believed that her willingness, as the great aunt of the Fan family, to express goodwill towards the new prefect's wife should elicit surprise and gratitude. However, Qiao Xian's response showed no signs of surprise, happiness, or gratitude. Despite her smiling demeanor and gentle tone, Qiao Xian treated her no differently than others, leaving Fan Rian feeling slighted, as if she had been overlooked. As Fan Rian picked up her teacup, her expression soured, and she mentally noted to Qiao Xian, "Just wait and see." Qiao Xian remained oblivious to the unfolding dynamics. As everyone arrived one after another, it neared noon. With a warm smile, Mrs. Guan sought Qiao Xian's opinion, proposing to commence with the banquet before the entertainment. Qiao Xian, displaying no objections, graciously thanked Mrs. Guan with a polite smile. Mrs. Guan's smile grew even more gracious and genial, repeatedly stating it was her duty while secretly harboring less pleasant thoughts. As the banquet commenced, Mrs. Guan invited Qiao Xian to the main table and gestured for everyone to be seated. With a smile, she informed Qiao Xian, "I've arranged for the renowned specialty dishes of An's province. Madame Qiao, as our distinguished guest, you must savor them later. The local delicacies are highly esteemed by the residents here." Laughter filled the air. "That's right. And Zeza's cuisine is exceptional. Madame Qiao, you must give it a try and see how much you enjoy it. Madame Qiao is sure to be pleased. Observing the peculiar smiles on everyone's faces, Qiao Xian couldn't help but wonder about the enigmatic culinary surprises Mrs. Guan had in store. Intrigued, she remained unfazed. If Mrs. Guan anticipated her discomfort or an embarrassing situation, she would likely be disappointed. Qiao Xian had encountered and tasted many unusual dishes that were beyond Mrs. Guan's imagination. Before the first dish made its appearance, an unpleasant odor wafted through the air. Li Xia and Kaiyue were the ones serving Qiao Xian, while Kaihua, Li Qiao, and Xiao Qiao were stationed elsewhere with Mrs. Guan's proficient maids and servants. Chapter 1666. Who wouldn't like to watch the show? Upon catching the pungent odor of the fish, both Li Xia and Kaiyue frowned, directing annoyed glances at Mrs. Guan. Their irritation stemmed from the perceived bullying they felt from Mrs. Guan. In their view, using local dishes as a pretext was just an excuse. How could Mrs. Guan dare to serve something like this to Madame, especially considering her pregnancy? Madame hadn't experienced morning sickness during her pregnancy, thanks to her robust health and the attentive care provided by Lord. His meticulous concern extended to every aspect of Madame's life, particularly her diet, where he maintained an unwavering vigilance. Madame's recent diet had been a collection of light and delectable dishes, with a variety of soups prepared daily to ensure she didn't lose her appetite. In stark contrast, Mrs. Guan had orchestrated a foolish attempt to serve something unconventional. Qiao Xian's composed expression only fueled Mrs. Guan's inner sneer, finding solace in Li Xia and Kaiyu's visible discontent. Curling her lips, Mrs. Guan introduced the fish to Qiao Xian with a warm smile, claiming it as Zeza's secret stinky fish, reserved for the most esteemed guests, emphasizing Madame Xiao's importance. Madame Xiao, be our guest and have a taste of this exclusive delicacy. The laughter from the other ladies echoed Mrs. Guan's sentiment. However, it was apparent to everyone that outsiders might find this dish challenging to appreciate. Typically, if such a unique dish were to be served, it would be explained to the esteemed guests beforehand. They would then decide whether to try it or not. Mrs. Guan's actions seemed more geared toward embarrassing the prefect's new wife. Those who outwardly supported Mrs. Guan were likely maintaining their rapport with her. However, many believed that the prefect's tenure might be short-lived, and consequently, they paid little attention to Qiao Xian. Who wouldn't like to watch a show? Fan Rian took particular delight in the situation, relishing the hope that Qiao Xian would embarrass herself. This was precisely why Fan Rian mockingly referred to her as Rui. Mrs. Guan, orchestrating the theatrical presentation, directed the maid to place the dish in front of Qiao Xian. Rather than succumb to potential embarrassment, Qiao Xian exhibited genuine interest, expressing with a smile, "Since it's a specialty of An's prefecture, I should give it a try." "However, Mrs. Guan, you've mistaken me for a distinguished guest. I am, in fact, the wife of the prefect." Mrs. Guan's smile faltered, and she half-jokingly remarked through gritted teeth, "My apologies. Madame Qiao, you're truly magnanimous. Please don't take it to heart." Qiao Xian reciprocated with a smile. "Mrs. Guan, there's no need to apologize. It's not a significant matter. I'm merely reminding you that I'm here in An's province with my lord, not as a mere guest." "That's right, absolutely," echoed Mrs. Guan, feigning agreement with a forced smile. As they exchanged smiles, an undercurrent of mutual disdain lingered between them. Qiao Xian disliked Mrs. Guan's constant attempts to assert her dominance, as if Qiao Xian had encroached upon her territory. Conversely, Mrs. Guan harbored a general aversion towards Qiao Xian. Maintaining her composure, Qiao Xian instructed Li Xia to pick up some fish with chopsticks. After tasting it, she nodded approvingly at Mrs. Guan and remarked with a smile, "This stinky fish has a pungent aroma, but the taste is delightful. It seems to be marinated and dried, offering a chewy texture and a hint of sunshine in its flavor." Chapter 1667. Who knows? This weirdo Qiao Xian greeted everyone with a warm smile. "Let's eat." Caught off guard, Mrs. Guan quickly composed herself and responded, "Yes, yes, please, please." Smiles and pleasantries were exchanged before everyone began partaking in the dishes presented. Dish after dish was served, and, for the most part, Mrs. Xuan had successfully organized the reception banquet. Any hiccups or mishaps would reflect on her, and the guests were well aware of this, with Qiao Xian being absolved of any responsibility. Mrs. Xuan's desire to embarrass Qiao Xian remained unfulfilled, leaving her with no outlet for her frustration. Aware of Qiao Xian's pregnancy, Mrs. Xuan estimated that it hadn't progressed beyond 3 months. As a mother of 2, she possessed keen insights into the signs of pregnancy, particularly the early stages. During the initial 3 months, most pregnant women experienced nausea, vomiting, loss of appetite, and overall discomfort. In some cases, these symptoms could be quite severe, making even a few sips of water nauseating. Given the strong aroma of the secret stinky fish, Mrs. Xuan doubted that many outsiders could stomach it, let alone a pregnant woman in the early stages. She secretly hoped Qiao Xian would experience a bout of nausea or, better yet, vomit on the spot. Such an embarrassing spectacle would leave an indelible mark on the prefect's wife. Regardless of future banquets in Anne's province, the memory of this reception would linger, stoking Mrs. Xuan's anger. The more Mrs. Xuan dwelled on it, the more she deemed it a brilliant idea. She eagerly anticipated Qiao Xian's reaction, only to be met with bewilderment. This odd woman, clearly in the early stages of pregnancy, managed to enjoy the stinky fish with a smile, even going so far as to praise its supposed sunlight aroma, which Mrs. Xuan found non-existent. Regret gnawed at Mrs. Xuan. Had she foreseen this outcome, she might have prepared alternative dishes. Now, facing this awkward situation, she feared becoming the subject of mockery among the attending ladies. As the banquet unfolded, the madams indulged in wine, contributing to a lively atmosphere. Pear blossom wine, with its mellow and moderately sweet flavor, was served. Qiao Xian, sharing news of her pregnancy with a smile, received congratulations but refrained from drinking. Fan Rian harbored regret, convinced that if Qiao Xian weren't pregnant, Mrs. Xuan would persist in embarrassing her, perhaps urging everyone to toast her or even concocting some mischief in her drink-a-euro, an entertaining scenario, in her opinion. The banquet proceeded smoothly, and after consuming noodles, the madams strolled leisurely into the garden to digest their food, sip tea, and engaged in conversations. Some took breaks to freshen up. Nearly an hour later, they regrouped to enjoy opera and other entertainment. Qiao Xian found herself in the parlor, engaged in conversation with several ladies. Mrs. Xuan had contemplated returning to her room for a wardrobe change but hesitated, reluctant to leave Qiao Xian alone. Uncertain about the topic of discussion among the ladies, she decided to join them and engage in conversation. Chapter 1668, Young Master Xuan. Mrs. Xuan understood that if Qiao Xian persisted in making friends with the other ladies, she would find ample opportunities, and Mrs. Xuan couldn't prevent her. Nevertheless, Mrs. Xuan found it unbearable to witness Qiao Xian's sociable interactions right under her nose. Seeing Qiao Xian chatting amiably with the other ladies filled her with discontent, and she silently wished that the ladies would ignore Qiao Xian altogether. Sensing it was almost time for a break, Mrs. Xuan stood up and suggested that everyone head to the garden stage to enjoy the show. This tactical move aimed to curtail the prefect's wife's conversations with the other madams, which had become an eyesore for Mrs. Xuan. Qiao Xian, along with the others, exited the reception pavilion. To her surprise, shortly after leaving the pavilion, as they walked halfway along the corridor toward the waterside theater, a boy around 7 or 8 years old darted towards them. Chasing after him were a maidservant who appeared to be a nanny and 2 more maidservants. Recognizing the child, the madams and young ladies greeted him enthusiastically and made way. "Hello, young Master Xuan." It was Xuan Jiaoling, the son of the deputy prefect and his wife. Known for his mischievous nature, Xuan Jiaoling, pampered by his mother, often acted as a little tyrant in the state government office's backyard. Even when attending events as a guest, he rarely displayed well-behaved conduct. With the reception banquet for Qiao Xian underway, Mrs. Xuan foresaw being occupied and unable to attend to her son. Anxious that he might cause trouble, yet concerned he might be mistreated, Mrs. Xuan instructed the nanny and 2 maids to care for the young master and prevent him from leaving the west yard. The nanny and the two maidservants reluctantly accepted the order, all the while nursing silent complaints in their hearts. Dealing with young master's strong-willed personality posed a formidable challenge, and they knew it wouldn't be easy to confine him to the Western campus for an entire half-day. Their expectations turned out to be accurate. Despite their best efforts, they could only manage to detain him for half a day. After lunch, all attempts to restrain him proved futile. Small in stature but surprisingly strong, he resisted any attempts to control him physically. Moreover, given his favored status as the master's son and his tendency to complain to Mrs. Xuan, the nanny and two maids dared not impede his movements. Fearing repercussions if he reported their actions to Mrs. Xuan, they opted to avoid any confrontation. Besides, having been on the receiving end of his physical aggression for no apparent reason before, they deemed it not worth the trouble. Resigned to the situation, the nanny and the two maidservants accompanied him beyond the west courtyard, allowing him to frolic in the expansive garden. Children, inherently energetic, were especially exuberant when mischievous. Considering they were within the estate's grounds, the nanny and maidservants exercised leniency, taking advantage of the moment to rest. To their surprise, in the blink of an eye, Guan Jiaoling had vanished. Upon spotting him, the nanny observed him heading towards Madame Xiao's reception banquet and hastened to catch up. As her son approached, Mrs. Guan cast a disapproving glance at the nanny and the two maids, though a trace of happiness lingered at the sight of her son after a brief absence. Before Mrs. Guan could utter a word, Guan Jiaoling abruptly shook her off and kicked Xiao Xian, startling everyone present. Reacting swiftly, Qiao blocked Xiao Xian's path, but Guan Jiaoling persistently kicked and hit her several times while vehemently scolding her. "Who told you to bully my mother? Who told you to bully my mother? I will kick you to death." Hit, hit, hit. Upon realizing it was Qiao who bore the brunt of the kicks, Guan Jiaoling redirected his aggression toward Xiao Xian. Chapter 1669. Shouldn't Mrs. Guan give an explanation? Qiao hurriedly intervened to stop Guan Jiaoling, while Lixia, frightened, assisted Xiao Xian to a safer location. People, startled by the commotion, quickly regained their senses and rushed forward to help. Anxiously crying out, Mrs. Guan pleaded, "Jar! Stop!" as she rushed forward to pull him away. The already narrow corridor became even more crowded, with people pushing and colliding amid the chaos. The cacophony of screams and shouts intensified. Lord Xiao swiftly intervened, pulling Guan Jiaoling back from the turmoil. Mrs. Guan, fearing her son might be hurt inadvertently, struggled to keep pace. "Jiar, calm down. Don't misbehave." Concerned that Xiao Xian might retaliate against her son, Mrs. Guan sought to protect him and instructed those around her, "Take the young master home, be cautious, and avoid frightening him." The tumultuous atmosphere, filled with shouts and screams, distressed her son. Mrs. Guan's heart ached at the thought. Liqiao, Kaihua, Qiao Qiao, and the others were present, and upon seeing Xiao Xian unharmed, they sighed in relief. As the scene gradually calmed, Mrs. Guan, looking at her son with concern, appeared as if he had been wronged. Xiao Xian, incensed, sneered and addressed Mrs. Guan, "Mrs. Guan, don't you owe me an explanation?" All eyes turned toward them, and the madams and young ladies waited for Mrs. Guan's response. In the face of Xiao Xian's question, Mrs. Guan felt a mixture of embarrassment and irritation. She struggled to maintain composure, forcing a smile as she replied, "Madam Xiao, the child is still young and thoughtless." "Are you genuinely upset by such a child?" Lixia and the others, infuriated by Mrs. Guan's shameless behavior, glared at her with disdain. Xiao Xian sneered. "Indeed, the child is young and naive, but I would like to know, Mrs. Guan, where did he pick up such words? Who taught him this? When did I ever mistreat you, Mrs. Guan? Please clarify." Mrs. Guan, feeling a mix of anger and anxiety, retorted, "Children can be talkative. He might have said something without any basis. Madam Xiao, why are you dwelling on this matter? Do you suspect that I instructed him? It's absurd. Why would I teach my son to say such things? What benefit would it bring me to teach him that?" That was Mrs. Guan's response. Qiao Xian's lingering suspicion further fueled Mrs. Guan's frustration. She genuinely had not coached her son to make such statements. She had never uttered anything of the sort in his presence. Puzzled as to why her son had intervened on her behalf, she speculated that the nanny and maidservants might have shared something with him. Mrs. Guan, however, saw her son's actions as considerate rather than misguided. Moreover, he hadn't harmed Qiao Xian, he had merely kicked one of the maids a few times, which she considered inconsequential. Seizing the moment to assert herself, Qiao Xian coldly stated, "That is your concern, and it doesn't involve me. If you don't offer an explanation, this matter won't be dropped." Suddenly, Qiao Xian winced, placing her hands on her belly. "My stomach is in pain. It hurts." Li Qiao, and the others were thrown into a panic. Chapter 1670, Shocked Madam. Don't be afraid. Madam, you must be shocked. Madam, please be all right. Get a doctor. Where's old master? Go and tell him. Li Qiao, and the others were panicking, and Mrs. Guan was startled too. She quickly instructed someone to help Qiao Xian sit down. Despite the pain, Qiao Xian scolded them. "Don't come here. Don't come here." Mrs. Guan stiffened and concealed her inner fury. What kind of look was that? "I am so sorry for what happened today. I will hold a banquet for you another day." "I am so sorry." Qiao Xian threw a look at the crowd and gestured for Li Xia and Li Qiao to assist her. Kai Hua, and the others hurriedly followed. Mrs. Guan seethed with anger. She had organized the reception banquet, and it ended up like this. How unlucky. Uncertain if Qiao Xian's stomachache was genuine or an act, Mrs. Guan, amidst the chaos, couldn't discern the truth. Nevertheless, she felt compelled to check and express concern, given the situation. Forced to smile, Mrs. Guan bid farewell to everyone. Recognizing that the reception banquet had concluded prematurely due to the incident, the guests swiftly conveyed polite sentiments, expressed concern for Madame Xiao, and departed one by one. After apologizing, Mrs. Guan instructed the housekeeper to see off the guests and then hurried to the east courtyard. Qiao Xian was startled, but her stomach did not hurt. However, Mrs. Guan's attitude was so irritating that she couldn't let it slide without causing some trouble. When Mrs. Guan arrived, Qiao Xian was feigning pain, and Li Xia and the others were anxiously trying to comfort her. Soon, Xiao Yunduan rushed in. Wife. Although Qiao Xian had been pretending, seeing Xiao Yunduan made her feel wronged. She started crying in his arms, complaining about how frightened she was. Xiao Yunduan's heart ached. He gently patted her shoulders and offered words of comfort. Then he shot a cold look at Mrs. Guan. Standing there, Mrs. Guan felt extremely embarrassed, unsure whether to stay or leave. She even regretted following them in. Now that she was crying and being comforted by her husband, it was not appropriate for Mrs. Guan to interrupt, let alone turn around and leave. When the doctor finally arrived, Xiao Yunduan asked the doctor to examine Qiao Xian. Mrs. Guan's heart raced as she nervously awaited the doctor's verdict. The diagnosis revealed that Qiao Xian had experienced a miscarriage and needed to rest in bed. She was prescribed medicine for 3 days and advised to return for a follow-up. Xiao Yunduan nodded, instructing the doctor to write the prescription and procure the medicine. He assisted Qiao Xian in lying down and instructed her to rest well. Then he stood up and turned to Mrs. Guan. "Mrs. Guan, please come this way." Mrs. Guan finally seized an opportunity to speak. She let out a sigh of relief and forced a smile. "Lord Xiao, actually Mrs. Guan, please. Let's discuss this outside. We mustn't disturb my wife's rest. She cannot endure any more shocks." Taken aback, Mrs. Guan nodded and left. In the hall, Deputy Prefect Guan was also present. Upon learning that Madame Xiao had a miscarriage but was otherwise fine, he felt relieved. Mrs. Guan, eager to explain herself, hurriedly said, "Lord Xiao, this is all a misunderstanding. The child is still young and inexperienced." Chapter 1671, Interrogation, Misunderstanding? Xiao Yunduan shot them a cold look. I don't see any misunderstanding here. Both Mrs. Guan and her husband were taken aback by Xiao Yunduan's unexpected rudeness. They looked somewhat surprised, and Mrs. Guan couldn't help but interject, Lord Xiao, Madame Xiao is fine, isn't she? Of course, I failed to take good care of her today, and for that, I apologize. Mrs. Guan made the apology sound like a reluctant concession. If she had known she was in a feudal competition with Qiao Xian and wanted to outdo her in every aspect, she might have chosen to apologize earlier, realizing it felt as though she had slapped herself in the face. Xiao Yunduan grew angrier, glaring sharply at Mrs. Guan. In your eyes, my wife might seem fine after the shock, but what if something had gone wrong? You've certainly taught your son well, considering his young age. Mrs. Guan disliked hearing disparaging remarks about her son. Lord Xiao, that's going too far. Jiar is just a child. Had he been a few years older, Mrs. Guan might have realized the potential consequences. Indignant, Mrs. Guan retorted, what do you mean by that? Xiao Yunduan sneered. How do you plan to explain your young master's absurd words to me? Where did he hear such ridiculous things? Mrs. Guan, dissatisfied and eager to argue, was stopped by Deputy Prefect, who wore an amiable expression that softened people's anger. His demeanor and smile left a positive impression. He courteously cupped his hands. Lord Xiao, please calm down. This woman is ignorant and inarticulate. She doesn't know how to express herself. Lord Xiao, disregard her. It's all her fault. She failed to take proper care of the child. Fortunately, Madame Xiao is blessed. Otherwise, would never forgive this woman. Once Madame Xiao is better, they'll have her prepare a gift before coming to apologize sincerely. Naturally, we will cover the expenses for the treatment and medicine. We won't allow Lord to spend any more money. He continued to apologize profusely with a bitter smile. Jiar is still young and doesn't know any better. I don't know who's spreading rumors, but Lord Xiao, please believe me. I have no intention of interfering in your governance of this state. My wife harbors no ill intentions either. I will thoroughly investigate this matter and provide you with a clear explanation. Xiao Yunduan's fury did not diminish. However, Guan Jialing was genuinely just a child who lacked understanding. Arguing with such an insensible child would serve no purpose. That was precisely why Mrs. Guan felt empowered to maintain her self-righteous and nonchalant attitude. Given Deputy Prefect Guan's comprehensive explanation, Xiao Yunduan found himself with little more to say. After Deputy Prefect concluded his statements, a cold silence enveloped the room, and the atmosphere turned increasingly oppressive. Mrs. Guan, sensing the need to break the silence, attempted to clear her throat but found herself hesitating for some unknown reason. Even Deputy Prefect Guan, usually composed, felt an inexplicable unease. After a brief pause, Xiao Yunduan spoke icily, since Deputy Prefect Guan has spoken, I will await your thorough investigation and your son's discipline. You need not attend the government office for the time being. Chapter 1672, Can't Let Them Go Easy. Deputy Prefect Guan and his wife were left stunned. Mrs. Guan was about to speak when Deputy Prefect Guan gave her a warning look. He then smiled and bowed sincerely, saying, Yes, yes. Lord is right. I will certainly follow your instructions. Lord, please rest assured. Xiao Yunduan nodded. You may leave now. Thank you, Lord. I apologize again for the disturbance. Deputy Prefect Guan bowed once more and exited the room with Mrs. Guan. As soon as they left, Xiao Yunduan rushed back to the bedroom. My lovey Euro, I'm fine. Qiao Xian smiled and gently squeezed Xiao Yunduan's hands. She reassured him, saying, Kaiyue and Lixia protected me, and Guan Jialing is just a child. How much harm could he cause? I'm truly fine, don't worry. I just felt that we couldn't let them off so easily. We had to put on an act. Children could indeed be quite troublesome. Xiao Yunduan held her hands, feeling a sense of relief. I'm glad you're okay. Please be cautious in the coming days, and be even more vigilant in the future. Upon receiving Song's report, the blood in his veins seemed to freeze. In that moment, it felt as if his heart had stopped beating. He dared not contemplate what he would do if something had truly happened to his wife. Xiao Yunduan chose not to disclose Mrs. Guan's words to Qiao Xian, which only fueled her anger. After consoling Qiao Xian, Xiao Yunduan advised, "I believe Mrs. Guan is an ignorant and self-centered individual. Keep your distance from her and those in the west courtyard." Qiao Xian nodded with a smile. "I never intended to befriend Mrs. Guan. He will come tomorrow to offer an apology. If you prefer not to see him, you have every right to decline." Qiao Xian smiled. "Certainly not." Xiao Yunduan grinned. "Well, that man is a bit thoughtless and muddled. I hope you won't take offense." Qiao Xian chuckled. "All right, I won't let it bother me." They continued their conversation for a while. Concerned about Xiao Xian's well-being, Xiao Yunduan eventually assisted her in lying down, tenderly kissed her, and then left. The reception banquet at the restaurant naturally came to an end. Seizing the opportunity, Xiao Yunduan decided to suspend Deputy Prefect Guan, necessitating a visit to the government office. With a sneer, Xiao Yunduan was eager to see what kind of response would be elicited. Returning home, both Mrs. Guan and Deputy Prefect Guan appeared disgruntled. Mrs. Guan fumed, "Lord Xiao is truly influential. He exploited the opportunity to suspend you, old master. Humph, it seems he's using this as an excuse to seek revenge." Deputy Prefect Guan, while also displeased, displayed a more composed demeanor. He replied indifferently, "Don't make a fuss. He's the prefect. If he wants to suspend me, he'll find a reason. Besides, it's quite fortunate. I've been occupied all year, and now I can enjoy a break. A half-day of leisure is a rare blessing. I'm curious to see how Lord Xiao manages the entire government office. I've been in charge for so long, there's no part of the government untouched by my influence. A few instructions from me, and Lord Xiao won't be able to do much. He'll have no choice but to plead with me to return." He eagerly anticipated Xiao Yunduan coming to beg him to return. Upon hearing his words, Mrs. Guan's eyes sparkled with delight. She couldn't resist gloating and said with a smile, "Excellent. Old master, that's a brilliant plan. Since Lord Xiao thinks he's clever, let him enjoy himself." Chapter 1673, Is It Really Not You? When he discovers he's been asked to shoot himself in the foot, he'll surely regret it. When he extends an invitation to you, old master, do not readily agree. Humph. Deputy Prefect Guan sneered. "Certainly." Deputy Prefect Guan furrowed his brows once more and remarked, "I haven't even addressed your involvement yet. How could you instruct Jar to engage in such folly? Some matters can be handled discreetly, but not so openly. It benefits us nothing to clash with them, especially in front of numerous guests. Madame Xiao is expecting. If something were to happen, how can the couple refrain from seeking vengeance? What folly have you committed, old master?" Mrs. Guan panicked upon hearing this. "I genuinely did not advise him on this. How could I be so thoughtless? You know my character, don't you? Regardless of my displeasure with Madame Xiao's conduct, would never harm the child in her womb. I was just as shocked." "Are you absolutely certain it wasn't you? Old master, why would I deceive you? You know the kind of person I am." Deputy Prefect Guan pondered the situation and concurred. It seemed implausible for his wife to act so foolishly. "Did you perhaps say something to the maidservants that the child overheard?" Leading to Euro, Mrs. Guan was left speechless. Well, Euro, this was not beyond the realm of possibility. Her heart ached for her son. Given the chance, he would always remain by her side. Since he was still young, she and the maidservants naturally didn't purposefully exclude him. If her son happened to recall that conversation, it could prove problematic. Mrs. Guan felt both troubled and relieved. The trouble lay in this incident, while the solace stemmed from her son's deep affection for her. Indeed, he was the son she cherished the most. Observing her distress, Deputy Prefect Guan formed a rough understanding. He advised, Qiao is gradually maturing. You must exercise more caution in the future. Some things shouldn't be discussed in his presence. He has a sharp memory, but he may not fully comprehend. It wouldn't bode well if he inadvertently revealed something outside. Mrs. Guan's heart skipped a beat, and she was taken aback. She hastily agreed. Certainly, some matters were not meant for outsiders. Euro, this issue is straightforward. Bring Qiao here and inquire with him. Mrs. Guan stated. Qiao was also frightened today. Old master, you should question him carefully later. Patience is key, scolding him won't help. I understand what needs to be done. Hurry and summon him. Mrs. Guan issued the command, and her maid Jinju went to fetch him. Soon, Guan Jialing, the nanny, and the two little girls were summoned. Mrs. Guan had always been wary of the nanny, fearing she might influence her son against her. Hence, the Guan family's nanny held a lower status compared to others. She appeared particularly tense in Mrs. Guan's presence. Realizing today's matter wouldn't be easily resolved, the three of them were already uneasy. Upon entering, they promptly knelt down. Guan Jialing remained unperturbed. Spotting his mother, he joyfully called out and rushed over. Mrs. Guan embraced him and greeted with a smile, "My darling." Mother and son shared an affectionate moment. Deputy Prefect Guan cleared his throat. Concerned about frightening her son, Mrs. Guan handled the situation herself. She spoke gently to Guan Jialing, "Jar, be good. I have a few questions for you. Answer obediently, and I'll have the kitchen prepare your favorite dishes tonight. Sound good?" Guan Jialing blinked. "I want fried fish. And Hexiang restaurant's crispy treats." All right. Chapter 1674, used. Mrs. Guan agreed with a tender smile and inquired, "Jar, why did you come here today, accusing Madame Qiao of mistreating me? Where did you hear that? What exactly did you hear? Please tell me." Guan Jialing pressed his lips together and blurted out, "That's right. I overheard two girls talking. I got really angry, so I rushed over to help Mother vent her frustration." The couple was taken aback and simultaneously questioned, "What did they say?" Guan Jialing was indignant, tightly pursing his lips. "They said Madame Qiao is mean and wicked. She used foul language and even plotted to have someone hit Mother and snatch her money. She even wanted to take me away and make me her slave. She planned to drive our family out and forbid us from living in the backyard of the state government office. She's so awful. So awful. Mother, I don't like her at all. Tell Father to kick their family out." All right. Jar, did you really hear all of this?" Yes. Mrs. Guan gazed at her son and felt a bit weary, but she also trusted that he wouldn't deceive her. If he said so, it must be true. Comforting her son, Mrs. Guan instructed Jinju and Jade to take him downstairs for some snacks. Guan Jialing, still holding on to his earlier request, insisted, "I want deep-fried fish and crispy snacks tonight." All right. Mother will instruct the kitchen to prepare deep-fried fish, and I'll have someone fetch your snacks. Only after her son happily followed the two girls did Mrs. Guan turn her attention to the nanny and scolded, "Are you deaf? Why didn't you come to me when you overheard such absurdities being uttered in front of the young master?" Deputy Prefect Guan also frowned, his gaze stern. It was evident that someone sought to sow discord, deliberately stirring up trouble with ill intentions. The nanny's face paled with fear at the gravity of the accusation. The prospect of being blamed for such a serious matter terrified her. "Madam, I swear I'm innocent. I had no idea. Young master is so lively and active, sometimes, I may lose sight of him momentarily. I promptly searched for him. While I did find him quickly, there was a brief period when I wasn't with young master. Perhaps someone exploited that to me." The nanny quickly confessed, pleading for mercy. "It's entirely my fault. I shouldn't have been careless. I'll learn from this mistake and be more vigilant in the future. Please, madam, show mercy." The two little girls were also frightened and joined in begging for forgiveness. Mrs. Guan sneered, "Do you realize the trouble your negligence has caused me? Offering apologies won't absolve you of responsibility." "I won't dare, I won't dare." Mrs. Guan expressed her frustration, swearing, "Who is behind this? How dare they manipulate my son like this? I'll find out and deal with them severely." Mrs. Guan questioned the nanny and the maidservants about anyone suspicious. Deputy Prefect Guan pondered before stating, "Madam, I suspect it wasn't our servants. Who would dare use jar like this? Our servants wouldn't risk it. Besides, Jar is still a childayuro, impulsive and unable to restrain himself. He likely overheard the maidservant's conversation and jumped to conclusions. Ask him if he heard it today." Mrs. Guan snapped back to reality and hastily instructed Nanny Ding to inquire. Nanny Ding returned promptly, nodding. "Old master, madam, young master did indeed hear it today." Upon hearing it, he rushed toward the banquet guest's. Chapter 1675. We can only acknowledge this matter. Deputy Prefect Guan's tone turned cold. "Madam, it seems that our jar has been manipulated as a pawn. I suspect it might be a servant girl of one of the guests who deliberately spread these rumors. Finding any evidence might prove challenging." Mrs. Guan clenched her teeth, acknowledging that her husband's assessment likely held truth. With a limited number of servants at home, and most of them assisting with the event, it seemed implausible that one of them had orchestrated such a scheme. Her own maidservant, in particular, lacked the cunning to exploit her son for trouble. Considering the guests, Mrs. Guan faced a dead end. Investigations appeared futile. After lunch, numerous madams, ladies, and maidservants strolled through the courtyard, making it practically impossible to identify a potential culprit. Lord Qiao and Madame Qiao have managed to make enemies in just a few days. Observing his wife jesting at Xiao Yunduan and his wife, Deputy Prefect Guan frowned. "We have no choice but to accept it." He shot a cold gaze at the nanny and the two little girls. "Be cautious with your words. Utter nothing inappropriate. Otherwise, humph." The nanny and the two girls nodded vigorously, expressing their agreement while desperately avoiding any wrong moves. As they conversed, a maid entered, reporting that Miss Qiao from Madame Xiao's household had arrived. The couple exchanged glances, and Mrs. Guan sneered. "You sent her over so quickly? Afraid I won't offer an apology? Call her in." Qiao entered and greeted them. Mrs. Guan gave a half-smile. "Miss Qiao, what brings you here?" Qiao spoke. "Mrs. Guan, our madam sent me to request some ointment for swelling and pain. The young master in our madam's family is quite strong. The bruise on Kai's leg, about the size of a palm, is red and swollen. It's painful to the touch. Our madam forgot to prepare the medicine, so she thought of asking Mrs. Guan first. If you don't have any, we'll need to summon a doctor." Both Mrs. Guan and Deputy Prefect Guan's eyelids twitched. A doctor? If a doctor were to be involved, who knew what information might be revealed? Mrs. Guan understood that Qiao had come to mock and humiliate her, but she had no choice but to suppress her anger and respond with a forced smile. "There's some ointment. Nanny Ding, fetch it." Jar was thoughtless and caused Miss Kaiwa distress. "Consider this ointment an apology. Miss Kaiwa, please don't take it to heart." She couldn't bring herself to apologize to Qiao Xian, let alone a mere maid like Kaiwa. Had it not been for Qiao Xian sending someone, her son wouldn't have mistreated a maid at all. But that was it. Apologize to a maidservant? It was out of the question. Qiao understood that Mrs. Guan wouldn't apologize. Accepting the ointment, she smiled and added, "My madam has more to convey to Mrs. Guan. Her servant will deliver the message. No need for any intermediaries. If there are any more injuries, she won't let it slide so easily." Qiao gave a pointed look at the stunned Mrs. Guan and departed. Mrs. Guan seethed. How dare she? She's just a lowly maid. What does she mean by all this? Making a fuss over a mere maid. Deputy Prefect Guan also harbored a sense of disgust and remarked, Exercise restraint with our people in the future. After all, we're not the sole residents behind this county office. Bah. Chapter 1676, Compensation. The following day, Mrs. Guan arranged a substantial gift and sent the nanny and the two girls to visit Xiao Xian, intending to offer an apology. The explanation crafted was, naturally, centered around the nanny and the two maidservants failing to adequately care for their young master. The maids, given to gossip, uttered a few inappropriate words about their master. Mrs. Guan's son, feeling neglected during her guests' entertainment, became displeased, and that led to the regrettable incident. I sincerely apologize, Madame Qiao. Mrs. Guan expressed remorse and handed over the nanny and the two maids to Qiao Xian, instructing her to deal with them as she saw fit. Qiao Xian found herself disgusted once again. Handing them over to her for punishment? They are your servants, Mrs. Guan. I have no authority over them. You may administer the punishment yourself. Mrs. Guan didn't want to complicate matters for Qiao Xian, so she smiled and replied, I offer a genuine apology, Madame Qiao. The servants have indeed erred, and they should face consequences. Rest assured, Madame Qiao. Qiao Xian inquired, what do you propose, Mrs. Guan? Mrs. Guan felt the urge to curse. As you wish, Madame Qiao. Qiao Xian suggested, if that's the case, let's proceed. Take the young master outside and administer a public flogging, so everyone can witness the consequences of negligence. Li Qiao, inform our staff to pay close attention. While observing the punishment was one aspect, it was crucial to convey that Mrs. Guan had ordered the flogging. Li Qiao agreed and hurriedly left. The nanny and the two girls continued pleading for mercy, but they were swiftly escorted away. Mrs. Guan felt irritated. Qiao Xian was the one who mentioned flogging, so why was she now saying it was Mrs. Guan's idea? When did she say such a thing? For such a trivial matter, Madame Qiao had taken it too far. Mrs. Guan had anticipated that Qiao Xian might teach the nanny and the two girls a lesson, but she never expected her to resort to flogging. Yet, Qiao Xian had made her stance unequivocal, leaving no room for changes even if she desired to backtrack. Unhappy with the situation, Mrs. Guan aimed to reciprocate and said, I should inform Madame Qiao of one thing. Jiar mentioned overhearing two maids gossiping in the garden yesterday, and it angered him. The maids were hidden by the flower shade, and he couldn't identify them. Curiously, the nanny and the maids were absent at the time. I suspect they might not be our maids. I wonder which lady they might be attending the banquet with. Of course, it's just a speculation. I'm merely mentioning it casually, Madame Qiao. You can simply disregard it. Seeing Qiao Xian's surprised expression, Mrs. Guan felt satisfied and left. Once she departed, Li Qiao couldn't contain herself. Your words are preposterous. We've only been in An's province for a short time. How could something like this happen? You must be evading responsibility and spreading baseless accusations to create trouble for our madam. With no known adversaries, who would commit such a malicious act? Qiao Xian blinked and chuckled. Actually, I believe she's not lying. Li Qiao was taken aback. But how can there be such a persona? Qiao Xian smiled. Not everyone would engage in such actions. Sometimes, it's merely a fleeting thought. After all, many harbor resentment when Lord is present, seizing every opportunity to stir up trouble. From now on, pay attention to everything. Understood, madam. Chapter 1677, that makes sense. When Xiao Yunduan returned and Qiao Xian briefed him, he wore a look of realization and commented, I found it strange yesterday, so it all adds up now. Qiao Xian smiled. I didn't dwell on it much, but Mrs. Guan's words provided some clarity. Certainly, no matter how foolish and impulsive Mrs. Guan might be, her actions didn't align with her usual behavior. She was fortunate and in good health, so everything turned out fine. However, if things had taken a turn for the worst, it could have resulted in a blatant murder. No one would believe it had nothing to do with Mrs. Guan. The consequences would undoubtedly be severe, possibly leading to the death penalty for the couple. Was there any reason for her to hastily escalate the situation into an irreparable conflict? The reception banquet, hosted by her abbot, would never have allowed her son to engage in such behavior. Without her guidance, the servants and nanny wouldn't dare act independently. Mrs. Xuan wasn't the type to tolerate a servant bullying her master and acting without restraint. However, children couldn't always control their emotions. When angered, they tended to act impulsively, disregarding consequences. It was conceivable that certain guests aimed to instigate a conflict between the local powerful figure, DeputyPrefect Xuan, and the newly arrived Lord Qiao, who had recently reached his peak. The culprits remained a mystery to Qiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan. This couldn't be helped. Their time in An's province had been brief, and this marked their first official interaction with these influential clans. Beyond this incident, there had been no other interactions, making it challenging to discern how they had unknowingly offended someone. No matter what, this serves as a lesson for us, Xiao Yunduan remarked in a serious tone. The wealthy families and local powers here are bolder and more audacious than we initially thought. My wife, exercise greater caution in the future. Avoid unnecessary outings. Xiao Yunduan understood that his wife wasn't someone who would confine herself to the mansion forever. He embraced her and planted a gentle kiss on her forehead. With a tinge of guilt, he softly said, "Be careful. Things will get better after the child is born." I'm genuinely worried now. While the backyard of the state government office was somewhat manageable, venturing outside posed uncertainties. Xiao Yunduan couldn't afford to take any risks, especially with a pregnant wife. Whether it was physical harm or merely fright, it was a significant concern. Unable to disclose her superpower to Xiao Yunduan, Qiao Xian nodded and smiled, "I understand. I'll be cautious and won't venture out unless absolutely necessary. I'll inform you whenever I need to go out." Recognizing his wife's reliability, Xiao Yunduan reassured her, "I'll accompany you whenever you go out. Call Ai, Sun Bai, and the others." Qiao Xian responded with a smile. However, she recalled that Mrs. Xuan had initially shared this information to taunt and complicate matters for them. She intended for Xiao Yunduan to witness the challenges he faced in this place. Little did she know that it turned out to be quite the opposite. Had Qiao Xian known, she might have found it infuriating. Unbeknownst to her, it was Fan Ruyan who orchestrated the scheme. Displeased by the lack of respect she felt she deserved, Fan Ruyan perceived Madame Xiao as arrogantly indifferent, even toward the Fan family, one of the three prominent families. Seizing an opportunity, Fan Ruyan, seated casually, nonchalantly strolled through the garden with her two maidservants. Upon spotting the young master of the Guan family alone, she seized the moment and instructed her maidservants to approach him. Chapter 1678, Complaint. Fan Ruyan impulsively acted without any intention to harm Qiao Xian. Her motive was rooted in personal dissatisfaction. Given the opportune moment, she decided to capitalize on it. The eventual outcome held little importance for her. She was content as long as it brought her satisfaction. Even if she failed to achieve her intended goal, it didn't bother her. After all, there was no loss on her part. With the numerous guests present, it was practically impossible to pinpoint her involvement. Moreover, considering the strained relationship between Mrs. Xuan and the new Madame Xiao, it was evident to anyone that even Madame Xiao herself wouldn't suspect any wrongdoing in her son's actions. As for Mrs. Xuan, would she be able to discern the truth? As a prominent figure among the three great families, Fan Ruyan had always carried herself with pride. In An's province, no one dared to challenge her status. Old Lady Fan inquired about the reception banquet and the well-being of the prefect's new wife. Before the two sisters-in-law could share their thoughts, Fan Ruyan interjected, "Madame Xiao is exceedingly arrogant and dismissive." I greeted her with a smile, but she responded perfunctorily and showed no interest in acknowledging me at all. Aren't all the officials' wives like this? They are truly vexatious. Why don't you take a closer look at this place? Let them revel in their arrogance. First Madame Fan and second Mrs. Fan exchanged glances, both rendered speechless and bewildered. Regardless, they couldn't recall any instance of Madame Xiao disregarding their sister-in-law. It puzzled them, but they assumed it stemmed from their sister-in-law not actively seeking her favor. To Fan Ruyan, this absence of overt flattery appeared as arrogance and neglect. Internally sneering, neither of them had any inclination to speak up for Qiao Xian. It seemed a trivial matter, and their mother-in-law consistently protected her. Speaking out might only invite scolding without any substantial benefit. Old Lady Fan expressed her displeasure, furrowing her brows as she remarked, "I heard that Lord Xiao was the previous primus. He is so young, so his wife must be young too. Young people should be proud. She doesn't give face to the Fan family in An's province. Humph, she thinks too highly of herself." Fan Ruyan sneered in agreement. "You're absolutely right. Let's wait and see how long Lord Xiao can maintain his position here." Meanwhile, Qiao Xian attended to her duties in the mansion while caring for the baby, but she didn't halt Songshi and Mianmian from their work. Zheng Sang returned from Yuzhong province, bringing Yuezheng Xiao's response. Yuezheng Xiao straightforwardly agreed to provide the seed as requested by Qiao Xian. He would also handle obtaining the seeds of King Solomon's seal, crowdipper, angelica, and honeysuckle. Both Qiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan felt relieved. Their long-standing friendship with Yuezheng Xiao had proven valuable. Qiao Xian planned to promote the cultivation of potatoes, herbs, peppers, star anise, and other cash crops in the mountainous region. While she had a preference for more expensive herbs like false starworts and Gastrodia alata, it was too conspicuous to cultivate them before establishing a stable foundation. Opting for King Solomon's seal, crowdipper, and similar crops was a strategic move. Though not as lucrative as the high-end herbs, they still held significant value, and Qiao Xian intended to gradually expand and develop in the future. Chapter 1679, Plant regarding peppers and aniseed. Qiao Xian had discovered wild varieties in the nearby woods during her land visit with Xiao Yunduan. They appeared to be of good quality. During that moment, a realization struck her. Why else would she purchase 50,000 mu of farmland in one go? Confident in her superpower, she harbored no concerns about the growth of herbs, peppers, star anise, and the like. Post-harvest, she planned to dry them and secure a buyer. Even with limited mountain transportation, she remained unfazed. While she had contemplated planting lychees, longan, mangoes, dragon fruits, and more, she ultimately abandoned the idea. These tropical fruit trees weren't suitable for this location, but she intended to revisit the notion in 2 years. Given the proximity to Yuzhong province, transportation of these fruits would be relatively straightforward. With her crop choices determined, it was time to embark on exploration. Time was of the essence, but Qiao Xian was prepared to invest. 1,000 mu of prepped land was ready for medicinal herb cultivation. The adjacent 3,000 mu of wasteland, while slightly flatter than the mountainous terrain, presented its own challenges. Overgrown bushes and thorny stems posed obstacles, requiring extensive effort to clear the land. As for the mountainous areas, Qiao Xian had already identified the purchased plots, predominantly covered in weeds with fewer trees. Despite the selected areas having less dense foliage, the task of clearing remained substantial. With spring plowing approaching, the window for sowing seeds was imminent. Farmers would soon be engrossed in their busiest season, making labor more expensive for hiring land pioneers. Furthermore, time was of the essence. The cultivation of herbs, potatoes, peppers, and star anise needed to commence before mid-May. Qiao Xian's instructions to Songshi and Mianmian instilled a sense of urgency among everyone. Songshi sought employment in the city, securing a job that paid 35 yuan per day, inclusive of lunch. This role was considered relatively superior, attracting many applicants. However, acquiring tools like hoes, sickles, hatchets, axes, and other implements for land cultivation proved challenging. Iron farming tools were not cheap, and households in the countryside often lacked complete sets, let alone city dwellers with limited access to land. Unfortunately, wasteland reclamation necessitated iron tools. Regrettably, Songshi had to abandon his efforts due to the unavailability of these tools. Despite blacksmith shops in the city, iron farming tools were not readily accessible. Purchasing them posed difficulties as the supply was limited, with only around 40 various tools available. In the end, only 80 people were hired, and only half of them were able to bring their own farming tools. Handling the mountainous terrain, Songshi led a few individuals to oversee the work. Meanwhile, on the flat ground, Lu Qian, Liu Fu, Emoli, and others took charge. Qiao Xian provided reminders to organize and distribute the workload efficiently. They decided not to take the firewood generated during land reclamation daily, fearing disputes over who took more or less. Instead, they accumulated it, intending to distribute it evenly among the workers at a later date. This precaution aimed to avoid unnecessary conflicts and maintain smooth progress. Though a seemingly small benefit, it could potentially spark disputes if not managed carefully. Chapter 1680, Exploration in the Contemporary Era. Firewood remained a vital resource for boiling water and cooking. The wasteland reclamation project produced a substantial amount of firewood, sufficient for their families to use for 2 to 3 months. Deciding to distribute it equally at the end of the project seemed like a practical approach. City workers accustomed to short-term jobs might not be adept at reclamation work. Songshi, well-versed in the process, took the time to explain to Lu Qian, Liu Fu, and others the importance of overseeing the hired workers, cautioning them against injuries. Additionally, they needed to ensure that workers dug out all underground roots during reclamation, preventing potential issues with wild grass and bushes growing in the future. Motivated and in high spirits, Liu Fu, with Lu Qian accompanying him, took charge of controlling the 40 hired workers. Taking advantage of favorable weather, they swiftly initiated the project. Initially, they focused on cutting down trees, shrubs, and grass, piling them together for later use. After preparing the firewood, they segregated it. The remaining unwanted materials, such as grass, leaves, and miscellaneous items, were set ablaze. With the ground cleared, they proceeded to dig and clean up roots and grass. Given the workers' lack of farming experience, the initial days were marked by chaos and numerous issues. Fortunately, the employees, enticed by the generous salary, were willing to learn and adapt. Collaborating with Songshi and Liu Fu, Qiao Xian drew a map, designating an area for building a courtyard. The envisioned courtyard would include spaces for a farming room, warehouse, fruit drying area, fruit processing workshop, duty dormitory, and a small kitchen. Each space was to encompass around 3 mu of empty land. Furthermore, since the two locations were approximately 7 to 8 miles apart, Qiao Xian instructed Songshi to assess the terrain. After the cultivation was complete, she planned to construct a better road to connect the two areas. Songshi and Liu Fu duly took note of the directive. On another front, Qiao Xian tasked Sun Bai and Sun Xian with inquiring about peppers and star anise trees. She aimed to procure according to the demand for 10,000 mu each, acknowledging that obtaining such quantities might prove challenging. Since Yuzhang lacked these crops, she had to search for them in An's province. While cultivating them initially might pose a challenge, Qiao Xian speculated that once she found the saplings, she could potentially propagate them using branches in her space, allowing for an expansion in numbers. In the span of 7 to 8 days, Qiao Xian's recovery period concluded. In her idle moments, she strolled through the garden, observing it nonchalantly. Since the last incident involving the young master, Mrs. Guan seemed to have learned her lesson, as Qiao Xian no longer encountered him in the garden. After a brief reflection, Qiao Xian asked Li Xia and Li Qiao, "I've been recuperating for the past few days, so it seems appropriate for each family to pay a visit, right?" Understanding the significance of basic social interactions as the wife of the prefect, Qiao Xian, being cautious about her health, intended to visit the affluent families. Even if she couldn't personally attend, she planned to send high-ranking maids and servants to extend her regards with invitations. Chapter 1681. None came however. Qiao Xian had been preoccupied with her exploration plans, causing her to overlook the absence of visitors for the past few days. Li Xia and Li Qiao chuckled at her realization. "Madam, you've just noticed this now. Those people aren't worth worrying about, madam. Don't let it bother you." "Exactly." Qiao Xian joined in the laughter, acknowledging her lack of popularity among certain circles. "It appears I'm not winning any popularity contests. Their families are quite organized. Ask Sun Bai to find out what's going on. I don't mind if they come or not, but I'd like to know the reason behind their organized actions. Li Xia agreed and promptly conveyed the message to Sun Bai. While Qiao Xian had momentarily forgotten about the issue, Xiao Yinduan had not. He had instructed Sun Bai to investigate the matter 2 days earlier. However, he chose not to mention it to Qiao Xian, hoping she would forget about it. Upon hearing Lixia's report, Qiao Xian quickly received the results. According to Sun Bai's findings, Old Lady Fan had taken the initiative to inform the Hua family and the Mei family. She subtly suggested that they distance themselves from the new prefect, fearing the couple might not take them seriously. The Mei family and the Hua family, being local powerhouses, resisted any changes in An's province. They were displeased with Xiao Yunduan's arrival and had initially aimed to promote Deputy Prefect Guan to the position of prefect. After all, Deputy Prefect Guan had been in An's province for many years, fostering relationships with the locals. Choosing a familiar face seemed more favorable to them. In the preceding years, the imperial court had rotated prefects in An's prefecture with remarkable frequency, resembling a constant turnover of personnel, revolving doors, and a game of musical chairs. The local families were growing impatient with the persistent changes. Adapting to a new prefect repeatedly was undesirable for everyone. Moreover, An's province's unique geographical location and the composition of its personnel made it challenging for any prominent family to establish and develop here without engaging in some questionable dealings. This complexity further fueled the discontent. Initially, Deputy Prefect Guan saw some progress in his aspirations. With more effort, he anticipated success. However, the imperial court abruptly altered its decision, appointing this new primus. This sudden turn of events not only shattered Deputy Prefect Guan's aspirations but also left the major families profoundly disinterested. Given the circumstances, their animosity toward Xiao Yunduan deepened. Now, with Old Lady Fan suggesting that they ignore Madame Xiao and assess Lord Xiao, everyone readily agreed. After all, testing him couldn't hurt. Lord Xiao wouldn't take drastic measures over such a trivial matter, right? Moreover, since the Fan family held a prominent position, it was necessary to show respect to Old Lady Fan. The reason behind Old Lady Fan's actions didn't surprise them. She had always been proud and capricious. Even if no one had offended her, simply disliking someone was enough reason for her to launch an attack. If the new Lord Xiao was disliked by Old Lady Fan, she would intensify her aversion. The other family clans typically followed the intentions of the three heads. If the three heads didn't act, the other families refrained from doing so as well. This was why Qiao Xian found herself so unpopular. For days, no one came to visit. Qiao Xian's decision to hire people for land exploration only fueled the family's displeasure. Were they truly going to settle here? Chapter 1682, if not the Fan family, it would be someone else. During the process of wasteland reclamation, numerous individuals casually passed by and expressed their curiosity. However, the hired workers, unaware of Qiao Xian's plans for planting on the reclaimed land, were questioned by some of the onlookers, including Songsher, Liu Fu, and others. Following Qiao Xian's instructions, the workers refrained from revealing any details to the inquisitive onlookers, intensifying their curiosity even more. The sight of so much wasteland being opened simultaneously sparked speculation. What could possibly be planted on such a large scale? Aside from corn and soybeans, the options seemed limited in such mountainous terrain. Did the prefect and his wife lack knowledge about the low productivity of such arid land? Were they anticipating a substantial profit from this meager harvest? Many onlookers believed the prefect and his wife were ignorant and ill-informed about the challenges of the region. Suggestions were made about investing the money elsewhere, perhaps in purchasing a shop. The high salary offered for a temporary job, along with seemingly extravagant provisions like steamed buns and bone and vegetable soup for lunch, were deemed wasteful. Countless pairs of eyes observed the proceedings, eager to witness the outcome. When Qiao Xian received the news from Sun Bai, she was initially perplexed. Had she offended the Fan family? Was the Fan family adamantly against her? Upon reflection, she acknowledged that there was likely no family clan exempt from apprehension about confronting them. If not the Fan family, another family would undoubtedly step forward. This situation felt like a deliberate test. Recalling Mrs. Guan's proud demeanor when they crossed paths in the garden 2 days ago, Qiao Xian suddenly grasped the situation. Mrs. Guan had likely spread some unfavorable information about her, contributing to the current scenario. She was openly mocking Qiao Xian for being ostracized and targeted. Qiao Xian shook her head, dismissing the mocking remarks. She had no time to concern herself with such trivialities. Instead, she focused on managing her own land. Testing her was of little importance to her in the grand scheme. In the meantime, Xiao Yunduan had advised Deputy Prefect not to work and to discipline his son, intending to address the trouble caused in the office the next day. The high-ranking staff in the state office were supposed to be assigned to the 6 intermediate departments. Each room had a designated person in charge, known as the Sutra Inheritor, overseeing clerks, scribes, and other staff. Typically, each room had several clerks, and there were varying numbers based on the actual needs, but it generally did not exceed 20. In addition to these 6 branches, the core offices of the prefecture below the deputy prefect, there were other roles such as those overseeing finances, education, prisons, and warehouses. More than 10 leaders handled these responsibilities, along with bailiffs, constables, gatekeepers, coroners, and various servants. For a prefecture office to function normally, a considerable number of people were required. Given An's province's larger territory due to its geographical location, it necessitated a sizable administrative staff. Deputy Prefect Guan's long-standing tenure added a layer of complexity to the relationships within the office. It appeared that Deputy Prefect Guan sought to assert control over Xiao Yunduan, the prefect, in an attempt to find a pretext for Xiao Yunduan to grant him a break. Consequently, Deputy Prefect Guan audaciously disrupted the proper functioning of the entire government office. Chapter 1683. Countless people waited to see Xiao Yunduan after Deputy Prefect Guan took a break. More than half of the officials scheduled to work that day applied for leave, with even the bailiffs making only sporadic appearances. Despite the disruption, 3 groups of people showed up to file lawsuits on the same day. Before heading to court for the trial, Xiao Yunduan had someone leave the necessary documents for him to review. These individuals had all been influenced by Deputy Prefect Guan's bribes, making them reluctant to simply leave without causing a commotion. However, Xiao Yunduan, being the prefect, was not bound by any rule that mandated immediate interrogation upon receiving legal documents, even with a promotion looming in the next 10 days or half a month. Exceptions were only made for murder cases or large-scale armed conflicts resulting in significant casualties. Deputy Prefect Guan, audacious as he might be, wouldn't dare to entangle himself in a murder case, knowing it would jeopardize his position. Xiao Yunduan had a steadfast stance, and any attempt to create a disturbance would result in public punishment. This impasse led to a temporary halt in the case trial, much to the disdain of Deputy Prefect Guan. Xiao Yunduan's resolute demeanor frustrated him, but there was little he could do. Despite An's province's unique circumstances, the absence of numerous officials from the office would inevitably take its toll. Deputy Prefect Guan smirked, realizing that Xiao Yunduan's authority as Lord Prefect might not hold much sway in An's prefecture. The title seemed less influential than he had initially thought. Countless onlookers eagerly anticipated Xiao Yunduan's next move. However, Xiao Yunduan remained unfazed by the scrutiny. His primary concern was the upcoming spring plowing, and having made all necessary preparations, he was unperturbed by the surrounding chaos. The imperial court had always maintained a laissez-faire attitude towards An's province. Merely finding officials willing to serve in this remote region was considered a commendable feat as long as there was no rebellion causing widespread loss of life. The court viewed everything else as trivial. Xiao Yunduan aimed to restructure the constables and third-class officers in one sweeping move. Scribes, albeit important, were replaceable. Despite the limited scholarly presence in An's province, finding substitutes for resigning scribes was feasible, even though it might initially lead to a manpower shortage and increased workload. His primary concern, however, rested on the bailiffs and constabliciero, the armed forces he could directly control. It was crucial that they remained under his influence, staffed by individuals loyal to him. Notably, Zheng Sang, Wu Guan, Yang Mu, Sun Bai, Sun Qian, and others were already part of his trusted circle. With this strategy in mind, Xiao Yunduan promptly signed the necessary documents and directed the bailiffs to deliver them to those currently on leave. He mandated their return to duty the following day, emphasizing that if anyone needed to reapply for leave, they must do so in person. By avoiding such responsibility, an official risked open disrespect towards his superior, making him unsuitable for the state office. In such cases, the prefect would display mercy by providing an additional 2 months' salary, urging the individual to promptly leave. Deputy Prefect Xuan was well aware of these developments and couldn't help but sneer. Lord Xiao's actions were intriguing to Euro. He bypassed the scribes and directed his frustration towards the bailiffs. Perhaps he understood that the scribes wouldn't easily yield to his demands. Chapter 1684. Whoever believes is silly. Did he believe that by channeling his frustration towards a few bailiffs and setting an example, the scribes would cower in fear? What a ludicrous notion. Euro. Despite Deputy Prefect Xuan's efforts, none of the bailiffs left, each one had their document. However, the situation was not taken seriously. After a round of discussions, Deputy Prefect Xuan's trusted aide received instructions and confidently assured that there wouldn't be any issues. The Lord of Prefect wouldn't dare to dismiss all 70 of them simultaneously. The idea of firing them all raised practical concerns. Euro. How many essential positions in the government office would be left vacant? Even Constable Ding and Constable Yu were unable to attend. What was there to fear? Convinced by Deputy Prefect Xuan's assurances, the bailiffs and constables believed the prefect's threat held no real weight. No prefect could maintain a lengthy tenure in An's province, and if Deputy Prefect Xuan had something to say, it had to be heeded. Lord Xiao had claimed he would stay for an extended period, but such declarations were met with skepticism. Euro. Few believed him. The next day, not a single bailiff reported for duty, rendering Xiao Yunduan's documents a laughingstock. Upon learning of this outcome, Deputy Prefect Xuan was nearly overcome with laughter. Lord Xiao, in his youthful naivety, failed to comprehend the dynamics of this jurisdiction. Xiao Yunduan was taken aback by the results, realizing that the situation was even more dire than he had anticipated. However, he acknowledged that such a worst-case scenario had crossed his mind before. Xiao Yunduan didn't mince words, addressing everyone absent that day, including the 2 constables. On the same day, a notice was prominently displayed at the government office entrance and several city gates, announcing the recruitment of bailiffs. The news took everyone by surprise. Was Lord Xiao truly unyielding? Did he comprehend the potential fallout from this decision? Deputy Prefect Xuan, shocked and angered, berated Xiao Yunduan privately before attempting to dissuade him. He carefully explained the repercussions and advised against impulsivity. Xiao Yunduan listened in silence before posing a question. Deputy Prefect Xuan, are you suggesting that, as the Lord of Prefect, I should bow to the first-class bailiffs, or go back on my word? How would I then command the respect to be a leader? Deputy Prefect Xuan felt a twinge of irritation but sneered slightly. Lord, firing more than half of the bailiffs at once might disrupt the government office's functioning. If something untoward happens. Euro. Xiao Yunduan responded sternly. We are already in the process of recruiting replacements. It's a few days of hard work, what harm can it do? Unless someone is scheming in the shadows. He continued with a cold tone, if anyone dares to undermine this effort, let them try. I won't let them off easily if I find out. Furious, Deputy Prefect Xuan sensed an implied threat but restrained his anger. He cautioned, Lord Xiao, you must tread carefully. Firing so many people at once could lead to trouble. People won't easily accept losing their jobs abruptly. They may seek justice. Justice? Xiao Yunduan scoffed. Deputy Prefect, are you jesting? I provided them with documents, their signatures are on these documents, and the papers are still in my possession. I offered them a chance, yet they scorned me, showed disrespect, and now talk of justice. Chapter 1685, Reject. Deputy Prefect Xuan remarked, you can't overlook this. Being young and unfamiliar with local governance, you might not realize the unique dynamics of officials here compared to those in the capital. Lord, officials in this region heavily rely on the lower-ranking officers to execute tasks. If you proceed without proper explanation, won't it disillusion everyone? In the future, it might pose significant challenges. Lord, it's wise to reconsider your decision. Xiao Yunduan sneered, questioning, Deputy Prefect, are you offering advice or issuing a threat? Deputy Prefect Guan chuckled, it's advice out of goodwill, of course. After all, I'm your assistant. If there's anything you're uncertain about, it's my duty to remind you. That's how collaboration works. Thank you for your well-intentioned advice, Deputy Prefect Guan, Xiao Yunduan replied with a half-smile. I won't yield to subordinates with malicious intent who defy my orders. They have chosen their path, and they must face the consequences. If anyone dares to cause trouble, let them try. Deputy Prefect Guan's expression soured. Suppressing his anger, he forced a smile. Since you've made up your mind, I have nothing more to say. Xiao Yunduan nodded. You may leave. Holding back his frustration, Deputy Prefect Guan respectfully cupped his hands and exited, his face dark with displeasure. Xiao Yunduan issued an announcement, directing late officers to take over the responsibilities. Those arriving within 2 days would receive 2 months' salary, while those delayed beyond that period would forfeit the bonus. Simultaneously, recruitment notices were posted throughout the process. Xiao Yunduan expanded the team by including Sun Bai, Sun Qian, Jing Sang, Wu Guan, Yang Mu, and 7 or 8 of Sun Bai and Sun Qian's subordinates. Sun Bai, Sun Qian, and Jing Sang were designated as constables, and Hang Xingshan, a constable, received a promotion. The 4 of them assumed leadership roles, each bringing a few constables to carry out the tasks assigned. It seemed like they had stirred up a hornet's nest this time. Not only were the bailiffs below agitated, but Constable Ding and Constable Yu were also visibly concerned. Some sneaked around, while others made no attempt to conceal their unease, rushing to the back of the government office to seek Deputy Prefect Guan for guidance. Deputy Prefect Guan felt overwhelmed, his thoughts in disarray, exhausted from managing the situation. He hadn't anticipated Xiao Yunduan's swift actions, leaving no room for maneuvering. However, he remained skeptical that Xiao Yunduan would actually terminate so many positions. Don't be hasty. Go back and wait patiently. This Lord Prefect is bluffing. Just observe. He won't endure for long. Don't fret, I won't abandon you. The law doesn't punish the masses. Don't bow your heads now, otherwise, all your efforts will be in vain. Let's give it 2 more days. Just these 2 days. Recruit? If he can't find anyone, who else can he employ? Isn't it simple? You've served as bailiffs for so long. Don't you know if the office can attract recruits? The words of Deputy Prefect Guan provided a sudden realization to everyone. With sneers and newfound confidence, they departed. Indeed, Deputy Prefect Guan's assurance instilled confidence. It seemed implausible that he would deceive such a large group. In truth, many were beginning to regret their involvement secretly. Not all of these troublemakers were Deputy Prefect Guan's trusted aides. Bribing individuals to be confidants required considerable effort and money, and these bailiffs were not in a position to demand such resources. Chapter 1686, Ask Deputy Prefect Guan. Constable Ding and Constable Yu were considered Deputy Prefect Guan's trusted aides, along with a few other individuals who displayed notable competence. The remaining bailiffs, skeptical of Lord Xiao's commitment to a lengthy tenure in the region, anticipated working under Deputy Prefect Guan in the future, leading them to naturally align with him. However, it wouldn't be accurate to claim they were truly loyal or shared a common adversary with Deputy Prefect Guan. To their surprise, Lord Xiao appeared genuinely committed to the changes. While the job's salary wasn't exceptionally generous, it wasn't meager either. Additionally, being associated with a public office brought social recognition, enhancing one's prestige in the community. The abrupt loss of this opportunity was disheartening, leaving them in a state of anxiety. In their desperation, other concerns took a back seat. Their immediate focus was finding Deputy Prefect Guan and seeking an explanation for the unfolding situation. Though not everyone sought Deputy Prefect Guan's counsel, a group of over 10 individuals bombarded him with questions, enough to test Deputy Prefect Guan's endurance. Numerous bailiffs, absent from their government office duties, converged on Deputy Prefect Guan. Xiao Yunduan was well aware of this orchestrated response. He couldn't feign ignorance about the mastermind behind this upheaval. Deputy Prefect Guan. Deputy Prefect Guan, caught in a web of embarrassment and anger, had to maintain a facade of innocence before Xiao Yunduan. The fear of Xiao Yunduan's perception gnawed at him, knowing that some observers would find his predicament amusing. His expression turned sinister, as he could only hope for divine intervention to navigate through this precarious game. Other Wizard Constable Ding and Constable Yu joined the gathering as well. Their long-standing amicable relationship with Deputy Prefect Guan was rooted in mutual benefits, although over time, it had developed into a somewhat genuine rapport. Observing their arrival, Deputy Prefect Guan, half jokingly and half seriously, expressed his dissatisfaction. Others may be ignorant, but to jump to conclusions from insignificant evidence, panicking over a minor issue. Why are you also causing trouble? This isn't like you. Constable Ding and Constable Yu felt a twinge of embarrassment and discontent. Without Deputy Prefect Guan's influence, they wouldn't have fallen out with the new prefect. In private discussions, they lamented their involvement and regretted their actions. The conflict seemed more like a power struggle between Deputy Prefect Guan and the new prefect, and they questioned why they were dragged into it. Despite their previous camaraderie with Deputy Prefect Guan, the extent of their relationship did not warrant this level of involvement. Reflecting on the situation, they realized that Lord Xiao was unlike the previous prefects. What if he was genuinely committed to staying for an extended period? Regrets sank in as they anticipated strained relations even if they reconciled later. They would likely be under constant scrutiny, needing to tread carefully to avoid any missteps that could be used against them. They concluded that getting involved in the matter initially was a mistake. If they wanted to participate, they should have found a way to avoid directly opposing the Lord of the Prefect. Now, it was too late to backtrack, and they were committed to supporting Deputy Prefect Guan, hoping that Lord Xiao would eventually relent. Constable Ding forced a smile and addressed Deputy Prefect Guan. Lord, considering Lord Xiao's assertiveness, we naturally harbor some doubts. Please enlighten us, and let's strategize to develop a countermeasure. With a plan in place, we won't be caught off guard, right? Chapter 1687, Lord Deputy Prefect, you mean, that's right. Constable Yu sneered. Lord Xiao is quick. He's already appointed a new constable. Ha! Even if this storm blows over, will we still have a place here? Both constables were tinged with anger and jealousy. Deputy Prefect Guan glanced at them and remarked, even with your presence, do you think you're safe? Lord Xiao is promoting those around him. I suspect he already harbors such intentions. Ha! Even if you remain unscathed, he might find a reason to push you aside, searching for fault in a straw. Why not make some noise and challenge him? That way, you can carve your own path. Stunned, the constable's hearts sank. Indeed. Deputy Prefect Guan observed their reactions coldly, understanding their thoughts. Having a couple more constables is not a significant issue for us. However, some individuals aren't deserving of such positions. Lord Xiao is young, inexperienced as a local official, and ignorant. He can act recklessly. Even if it's for the sake of the common people, we have a responsibility. Don't you agree? The constables seemed to grasp the point but remained somewhat uncertain. Thesa do you mean Deputy Prefect Guan chuckled, dismissing their concerns with a wave of his hand. I'm not implying anything else. I just believe that some people aren't fit to be constables. Lord Xiao is young and lacks understanding. Let him witness the reality. Let him see that certain individuals can't withstand scrutiny. Why should they hold such positions? Constable Ding and Constable Yu exchanged glances, comprehending the message. Deputy Prefect Guan added, procrastinating won't serve us well. Lord Xiao, if you grasp this concept early on, the government office can return to normal sooner rather than later. Don't you think? They both nodded in agreement. Constable Ding hesitated briefly. A Lord, is Thesa appropriate? What could go wrong? Deputy Prefect Guan chuckled. Regardless of what unfolds, it won't implicate us, will it? Ding and Yu were enlightened and broke into smiles. Lord is absolutely right, ha ha ha. Yes, whatever unfolds, we're not involved. Leaving the backyard of the state government office, the two constables ventured off to strategize. They decided to target Hang Xingshan first. Hang Xingshan had been promoted by the previous prefect. If the former prefect had remained in An's province for an extended period, Hang Xingshan would have inevitably become a constable. This was common knowledge. Therefore, Constable Ding and Constable Yu harbored a long-standing resentment toward Hang Xingshan. Surprisingly, the new prefect displayed a keen eye and promptly promoted Hang Xingshan. Or perhaps, Hang Xingshan had harbored ill feelings towards them and clandestinely provided information to the lord of the prefect in exchange for these benefits. With this perspective, the constables felt justified in teaching Hang Xingshan a lesson. After all, who gave him the right to scheme against others behind their backs? Was he truly worthy of holding the position of constable? Constable Ding and Constable Yu had long desired to reprimand Hang Xingshan. Despite their previous attempts to create difficulties for him, Hang Xingshan always managed to avoid getting caught in any suspicious activities. Now, an opportunity had finally presented itself. However, what the two constables did not anticipate was that, even when attacking him together, they would be unable to overpower Hang Xingshan. Chapter 1688, Manta stalks the cicada Ding and Yu were seething with anger as they scolded Hang Xingshan furiously, threatening him to vacate the government office. Lord Qiao won't linger in An's province for long. You won't be able to rely on him indefinitely. If you know what's good for you, leave now. Otherwise, once Lord Qiao departs, your exit won't be so trouble-free. Hang Xingshan paid no heed to their threats and retorted, if you dare to attack again, don't blame me for being ruthless. Ding and Yu were further incensed. However, the ordeal did not end there. After Hang Xingshan departed, they found themselves assaulted once more. The attackers concealed their faces, but the intensity in their eyes radiated danger. Their demeanor made it clear they were not to be trifled with. Faced with the assailants' cold gaze and an air of menace, Ding and Yu felt a chill of fear. Before they could make any inquiries, a barrage of punches and kicks rained down on them. Helpless, they rolled on the ground, screaming in agony, unable to mount any defense. The assailants sneered and departed silently. After a while, Ding and Yu struggled to their feet. Their faces were unscathed, but their bodies ached in every imaginable way. It felt as though someone had disassembled their bones. Pale-faced, sweating profusely, and trembling, they tried to comprehend what had just happened. Who were those two people? I don't know. Despite claiming ignorance, the duo couldn't dismiss the notion of a sinister connection. They had barely caused trouble for Hang Xingshan and had yet to exit the alley when they were brutally assaulted. The words left behind by the two attackers were more than just an idle threat. Lord Qiao, were they working on behalf of Lord Qiao? Had Lord Qiao been keeping a watchful eye on them? If Hang Xingshan hadn't confronted them, these two individuals would have intervened. Shock registered in the eyes of Ding and Yu as they exchanged glances. They were now consumed with regret, their internal turmoil verging on turning their intestines green. What kind of individuals did Lord Qiao have in his service? If they had foreseen this outcome, they wouldn't have succumbed to Deputy Prefect Guan's manipulation. Regret surged, but it was too late to undo their actions. Not content with merely threatening Hang Xingshan, they were also incited by Deputy Prefect Guan. Numerous bailiffs followed a young man aspiring to join their ranks, attempting to intimidate him and nullify his registration. Yet, the tables turned, and they found themselves either battered or delivered to Xiao Yunduan. 8 individuals were escorted to Xiao Yunduan, where they faced public interrogation. Each of them received a beating 20 times before being expelled from the room. The incident triggered a widespread uproar. Someone had been covertly influencing Xiao Yunduan, spreading detrimental rumors about the new lord of the prefect. They accused him of being haughty, arbitrary, and unreasonable, claiming he instigated conflict upon arrival, resulting in the departure of over half the bailiffs. Allegedly, these bailiffs were driven away because they refused to appease him or provide illicit benefits. However, the truth was far from the rumors. Lord Qiao had given these individuals an opportunity to reform, yet they squandered it. Unwilling to compromise, they resorted to a strike, attempting to leverage "the law doesn't punish the masses" to extract additional benefits from Lord Qiao. Facing their obstinance, Lord Qiao chose not to yield to such a malevolent force. Instead, he opted to part ways with these unscrupulous officers and initiate fresh recruitments. The extent of their moral degradation became evident as they targeted those who had signed up, resorting to threats and violence in an attempt to force them out. The intention was clear: Lord Qiao would beg them to return. The sheer despicability and sinister nature of their actions left a stain on their reputation that could not easily be erased. Chapter 1689. Kindness and Might. Xiao Yunduan's voice cut through the air with cold precision. These 20 strokes are for you novices. If there's a next transgression, you'll face 30 strokes and 3 months of imprisonment. Subsequent offenses will warrant 40 strokes and a year behind bars. If you doubt whether I keep my word, feel free to test it. The 8 battered individuals were unceremoniously ejected from the government office, limping away and supporting each other in their hasty retreat. The others were paralyzed with fear, initially hesitant to entertain any thoughts. However, unable to part with the stability of the job and occasional small perks, some gathered in groups of 3 to 5, seeking mercy from Lord Qiao at the state office. Xiao Yunduan kept them waiting for 3 hours. Once they finally met, and after they had kowtowed and pleaded for mercy, he sneered, regretting it now? What were you thinking earlier? Ashamed and nervous, they lowered their heads, hesitant to utter a word. After a while, Xiao Yunduan spoke calmly. You are all familiar with this place, and not all the spots have been filled yet. There are still 30 openings, first come, first served. Since you acknowledge your wrongdoing, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt for now. Go back, write a confession letter, sign it, and submit it. Yes, thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. Thank you for your kindness, Lord. Xiao Yunduan sneered again. I'm not finished. When you return, regardless of your current position, you will be reassigned and start from the bottom. No objections are allowed. Additionally, I will cease the board game. It will affect the province, but your salaries will be fined. Each of you will face a 2-month penalty. Are you satisfied? If not, you don't have to come back. This time, many of those incited by DeputyPrefect Xuan to cause trouble held minor leadership roles. They had bet on the wrong outcome, ensuring that even if they returned, they could kiss their leadership positions goodbye. Furthermore, a salary penalty awaited them. 2 months was neither lenient nor severe. It struck a balanced chord. The directive to start from the bottom left all of them dumbfounded. Xiao Yunduan's sneer accompanied his cold words as he lowered his eyes and declared, You underestimated me, thinking that a simple apology and kowtowing would erase the trouble you attempted to stir up. Were it not for your past contributions to the state office, I wouldn't have afforded you this chance. Reflect on it. If, upon careful consideration, you decide to return, do so. If not, pretend this never happened. I won't coerce you. There's only one condition: be obedient henceforth. Otherwise, I won't be lenient. Yes, Lord Euro. Their hearts quivered as they kowtowed, rose, and retreated. Once outside the state office, they exchanged uneasy glances. News of the incident swiftly circulated. Urged by anxiety, one individual spent a few copper coins to enlist the help of cultivated talent Luadi, who wrote a letter of repentance and signed it. Hastily, the individuals sought mercy at the government office, expressing a desire to return. With a trailblazer in tow, others grew increasingly anxious. A collective rush ensued towards the state office. Xiao Yunduan issued an order, closing the acceptance of further confessions after reaching the count of 30. Ultimately, only 30 individuals returned to the government office, leaving the remaining 30 to find alternative means of livelihood. In less than 5 days, the entire narrative of the situation underwent a complete reversal. Chapter 1690. Who can take it? Xiao Yunduan seamlessly assumed control of the constables and bailiffs in the court, entrusting Sun Bai, Sun Qian, and Zheng Sang with the responsibility of reassigning and training the new recruits, promising a swift transformation. Meanwhile, the 30 individuals who had left the court harbored regret but dared not hold animosity towards Xiao Yunduan. The lord of the prefect proved to be formidable and not to be trifled with. There was no justification for resentment, and any lingering hatred within their ranks was confined and ineffectual. After the stern lesson given to the 8 instigators, they were thoroughly frightened into submission. The remaining dissenters lacked the courage to act recklessly. Despite their reluctance to give up, a collective movement emerged as they sought Deputy Prefect Xuan for redress. Instigated by his previous encouragement, they now demanded an explanation and compensation. Formerly revered, Deputy Prefect Xuan found himself surrounded and targeted by the very individuals he had sought to manipulate against Xiao Yunduan. Frustration and anger overwhelmed Deputy Prefect Xuan, who now faced the consequence of his own machinations. The assertiveness of the 30 individuals, each voicing their grievances, tormented him. Mrs. Xuan, frightened by the commotion, took refuge in the bedroom, venting her anger through gritted teeth. The turmoil caused by these disgruntled individuals was enough to drive anyone to the brink. Deputy Prefect Xuan found himself in a sorry state, unable to deny his role in instigating the situation. The disgruntled individuals, fueled by anger, sought him out for retribution. However, when it came to compensating them, Deputy Prefect Xuan was resistant. He deemed these commoners foolish for mishandling a straightforward task and implicating him. The idea of compensating them seemed ludicrous to him, and he was unwilling to part with his accumulated wealth to appease their grievances. Expressing his frustration, Deputy Prefect Xuan sternly reprimanded the group, asserting that Lord Xiao's recruitment efforts were merely a facade. He urged them to maintain composure, assuring them that he could influence Lord Xiao on their behalf. Despite initial skepticism, Deputy Prefect Xuan, wielding his authority, used a combination of persuasion and coercion to convince the majority to leave. Their reluctance to abandon the stable jobs and a lingering hope that Deputy Prefect Xuan's assurances might hold true contributed to their hesitant departure. However, a handful of individuals at the back harbored resentment and launched an attack on Deputy Prefect Xuan. Unconvinced by his promises and aware of his deceit, they were not swayed by his attempts to manipulate the situation. Chapter 1691. His heart hurts. Deputy Prefect Xuan probably didn't have such a big face in front of Lord Xiao. Who was he trying to fool? These few people were usually crafty and cunning. Deputy Prefect Xuan also understood that it was impossible for him to not give up something at all after this matter had become like this. After a round of competition, Deputy Prefect Xuan agreed to give these 6 people 10 taels each. However, they had to help him stop the others. No matter what method they used, they had to stop the others from looking for him. The 6 of them felt that 10 taels of silver per person was too little, so they refused. The 2 sides haggled and finally settled on 20 taels each. Deputy Prefect Xuan originally wanted to give half and the other half after this matter was completely over. However, the 6 of them refused. Deputy Prefect Xuan could not dissuade someone who had nothing on shoulders, so he could only grit his teeth and give the money. A total of 120 taels. His heart ached so much that it trembled. One had to know that his monthly salary was only 30 taels of silver. He still had 1 or 2 small shops in the city. He could earn about 20 taels a month. This was his normal monthly income. Every year, there would be some benefits from time to time. He could also take some from the public accounts. However, no matter what, 120 taels was definitely a huge sum to him. Mrs. Xuan's heart ached when she found out. A few days ago, she had taken a fancy to 2 new brocades from Jiangnan. One cost 36 taels of silver. She hesitated for a while but could not bear to buy it. But who knew that in the blink of an eye, 120 taels of silver would be wasted? Then I might as well buy myself brocade. These people really dare to speak. Mrs. Xuan scolded the officers, Xiao Yunduan and Xiao Xian, apparently blaming them for the situation. The 6 individuals proved ineffective in stopping the others. Someone inadvertently revealed that they had each received 20 taels of silver as compensation from Deputy Prefect Xuan. The revelation sparked envy among those who hadn't received compensation, fueling resentment towards Deputy Prefect Xuan. Green with envy, they rushed to the backyard of the provincial government office, demanding compensation from Deputy Prefect Xuan. They insisted on receiving at least 20 taels of silver. When the butler reported that these individuals had returned, Deputy Prefect Xuan sensed trouble. However, he couldn't turn them away, fearing that they might expose him if they refused to leave. If even a fig leaf was torn off, he would be too ashamed to face Lord Qiao in the future. Pinching his nose, Deputy Prefect Xuan reluctantly allowed them in. He scolded those who didn't act after receiving money but had to endure as they demanded their share. The temptation of 20 taels of silver had turned them relentless, creating a tsunami of demands that almost drowned Deputy Prefect Xuan. Regardless of what Deputy Prefect Xuan said, nobody believed him this time. They refused to listen and clamored for the demanded 20 taels of silver, not a single tael less. Chapter 1692, Heavy Losses. Deputy Prefect Xuan stood firm, refusing to yield, which only fueled the crowd's excitement. In the chaos, a porcelain bottle on a chest of drawers fell to the ground and shattered. Taking advantage of the moment, Deputy Prefect Xuan intensified the situation, insisting that the broken porcelain bottle was worth 1,000 taels of silver and demanded compensation. This further angered the crowd, and chaos ensued. An unknown person initiated the fighting, and soon the entire living room turned into a battleground. Deputy Prefect Xuan and the butler became victims of the violence, bearing the brunt of the attacks. Their cries for help went unanswered as the servants rushed in, causing the attackers to disperse and flee. The house was left in disarray, with overturned furniture and shattered artifacts strewn across the floor. Even Deputy Prefect Xuan's jade pendant had been snatched away. Hiding in the back, Mrs. Xuan had heard the commotion but was too scared to intervene. When the attackers finally dispersed, she rushed out and was shocked at the scene before her. Seeing her bruised and battered husband, she exclaimed, "Oh my God! What sins have we committed?" Hurrying to assist her husband, Mrs. Xuan expressed her concern, while Nanny Ding and Zhenju helped Deputy Prefect Xuan onto a chair. The sight of the damaged living room added to Mrs. Xuan's distress. She exclaimed, "Io, how did it end up like this? Ridiculous, this is outrageous." Despite not being genuine antiques, the items in the living room held value, making the damage significant and heartbreaking. The pair of Beauty's hairpins and plum bottles alone were valued at more than 100 taels of silver. Additionally, there was a jade mountain figure, hairpins, and a white jade with an elephant chime, with respective values of 80 taels and 110 taels. While the rest of the items were not as exquisite, they still held value, each worth dozens of taels. In total, the losses amounted to quite a substantial sum. Regarding the furniture, all of it had been forcefully kicked to the ground, resulting in numerous bumps and bruises. Some damages were subtle and could potentially be repaired by a skilled artisan, but others were irreparable and necessitated replacement. The overall loss easily reached 2,000 taels of silver, leaving Mrs. Xuan on the verge of tears. Deputy Prefect Xuan, groaning from the pain, soon realized the severity of his injuries. His left arm, when moved, caused intense pain, indicating a probable fracture. Urgently, he called for a doctor to attend to his injuries. As Deputy Prefect Xuan assessed the room, he was horrified to see that half of a calligraphy painting hanging on the wall had been torn apart, with only the other half still swaying. He exclaimed, "Ah! My painting! My painting!" This artwork, crafted by a renowned artist from the previous dynasty, had been a prized possession. Deputy Prefect Xuan had acquired it as a symbol of prestige, surpassing the combined value of everything else in the room. Devastated by the irreparable damage to the cherished painting, Deputy Prefect Xuan was overwhelmed with despair and fainted before he could catch his breath. Mrs. Xuan, panicked and distraught, continuously called out to her husband, "Old Master." The doctor arrived just in time, and Deputy Prefect Xuan slowly regained consciousness. Chapter 1693, Deputy Prefect Xuan's bitterness. Mrs. Xuan patted her chest, letting out a relieved sigh. "That scared me to death. Old Master, don't be sad. I'll settle the score with those troublemakers later." "Humph, none of them can escape," Mrs. Xuan said with resentment. Determined, she decided that even if those individuals had to face bankruptcy and sell themselves as slaves, she would make sure they compensated for their losses. Otherwise, they would all end up in jail. Deputy Prefect Xuan felt extremely frustrated. "Shut up and let me have some peace." His wife was unaware of the true value of the painting. If she knew, it might drive her to anger-induced demise. In the current situation, he dared not say anything. The idea of finding those responsible for compensation seemed plausible, but who could he hold accountable? The chaos of the moment made it unlikely for anyone to admit guilt willingly. Furthermore, if he pushed them into a corner and they fought back fiercely, he would be the one facing unfortunate consequences. He was no longer solely in charge of the prefect's office, and throwing her in jail was out of the question. Lord Qiao would never agree to it. Deputy Prefect Xuan knew without asking that the bailiffs wouldn't follow his orders. Bitterness consumed him as he contemplated the situation. If only he had known the extent of those troublemakers' lawlessness, he would have paid them off. 20 taels per person, totaling 60 people, amounted to only 1,000 taels. Reflecting on it, he realized he had lost several thousand taels. His anger was overwhelming, and his heart ached at the loss. No, if he had given the 6 troublemakers 20 taels of silver from the start, 10 taels per person would likely have resolved the issue peacefully. The more Deputy Prefect Xuan thought about it, the more his heart ached, and anger threatened to make him vomit blood. The doctor finally arrived, confirming Deputy Prefect Xuan's suspicion of a fractured left arm accompanied by bruises. Sensing slight pain in his chest and abdomen, he opted to address all issues at once. The consultation and medicine incurred a few taels of silver. Observing her husband's sorry state, Mrs. Xuan instructed someone to procure and prepare the medicine. Rising angrily, she declared, "I'm going to find Madame Qiao. Lord Qiao must intervene. If he refuses, I won't leave so easily." "Stop right there." Deputy Prefect Xuan sternly halted her, his frown deepening. "Come back, you're not allowed to go." "Old Mr. Isn't it embarrassing enough? If Xiao Yunduan seizes this opportunity to investigate, think about it for yourself." Mrs. Xuan was instantly rendered speechless. Could it be settled just like that? "Old master, there's so much silver. We incurred substantial losses this time." Deputy Prefect Xuan trembled, experiencing the pain once again. Not only physical pain but also aching in his heart. The famous calligraphy and painting from the previous dynasty had cost him 4,600 taels of silver. What else? Deputy Prefect Xuan glared at Mrs. Xuan, sneering. "There's still a long way to go. Just wait and see." As long as she's still here, she'll recoup what she lost. This matter ends here. Don't mention it again." Taking a deep breath, he spoke in a low voice. "I want to rest well now and strive to recover as soon as possible to resume my duties in the government office. It's in your best interest to refrain from provoking me further." Mrs. Xuan was left speechless. Feeling aggrieved, she mumbled, "This is so it was infuriating." After all the trouble, he ended up suffering a double loss. Deputy Prefect Xuan had closed his eyes, signaling his exhaustion. He didn't want to talk anymore. Any further discussion would only fuel his anger. Unsatisfied, Mrs. Xuan decided to visit Qiao Xian's place. Chapter 1694. Qiao Xian's eye opened up. Mrs. Xuan continued her tirade in front of Qiao Xian, portraying the former bailiffs as ruthless robbers who had assaulted her old master, resulting in his bone fracture. How dreadful! Certainly, she omitted the truth. According to her version, the former bailiffs had gathered at their residence after being dismissed by Lord Qiao. Seeking old Master Xuan's assistance, they were met with rejection. Surprisingly, they grew disheartened and initiated a brawl. The more Mrs. Xuan spoke, the more convinced she became of this narrative. Each word fueled her sense of injustice. Occasionally, she cast blameful glances at Qiao Xian, as if Xiao Yunduan was solely responsible for Deputy Prefect Xuan's predicament. Portraying old master's push, injury, and fracture as insufficient, Mrs. Xuan also painted a poignant picture of her family's misery. Qiao Xian had her eyes opened. The dramatic performance seemed remarkably convincing. If she wasn't aware of the intricacies, she might have believed it. Sympathy filled Qiao Xian's eyes as she sighed. I never expected such a turn of events. We women lack the art of deception. These words circulate, and discerning their truth becomes challenging. Mrs. Xuan, if you feel wronged, why not return and discuss it with Deputy Prefect Xuan? We can present the case in court, letting the citizens impartially judge it in public. It would spare Mrs. Xuan a lot of trouble. Implicitly, Qiao Xian made it clear she didn't believe a word of Mrs. Xuan's story. So, accusing Lord Qiao and blaming him for the Xuan family's woes was out of the question. Mrs. Xuan was infuriated. Was there no sympathy at all? After her lengthy narration, this was the response she received. Had Lord Qiao been involved right from the beginning? If it weren't for Lord Qiao seeking personal revenge and the subsequent suspension of his old master, the chain of events leading to his current state wouldn't have unfolded. Naturally, the situation wouldn't have escalated to this point. At this juncture, Mrs. Xuan refrained from demanding responsibility or compensation. Surprisingly, Madame Qiao displayed no embarrassment and dismissed the matter. Public trial? I wouldn't dare. Mrs. Xuan sneered. Some people are shameless. If they don't participate, they'll face slander, and no amount of washing will make them clean. Poor old master. He dedicated himself to helping Lord Qiao, only to end up in such a state. Qiao Xian, growing annoyed, retorted, Mrs. Xuan, if you believe Deputy Prefect Xuan is unjustly treated in his position, why not suggest he resign? Though he hasn't been with our Lord for long, Lord Qiao has always been generous. He would undoubtedly receive a substantial compensation package and not suffer a loss. Mrs. Xuan abruptly stood up, her expression changing. Madame Qiao, what do you mean? Are you trying to drive our old master away? Is this your idea or Lord Qiao's? Qiao Xian stared at her. I also want to ask, Mrs. Xuan, why have you come here to share all this nonsense with me? Don't insinuate anything, I don't comprehend your implications. Let's clear things up. You are the one feeling wronged. Why should I be the one accused of wanting to dismiss you? If you're aggrieved, you have the choice not to endure it. Chapter 1695, Embarrassed. Also, my lord has only been in An's province for a few days, but I'm unaware of Deputy Prefect Xuan's contributions to my lord. Why don't you provide me with a detailed account, Mrs. Xuan? Qiao Xian had extended courtesy by not immediately dismissing her. Didn't Mrs. Xuan realize that whatever situation she was in, she had brought upon herself? What did it have to do with Qiao Xian's family? Rather than feeling guilty, Mrs. Xuan had the audacity to approach her and spew unpleasant remarks. By not expelling her outright, Qiao Xian believed she had already shown considerable restraint. However, Mrs. Xuan pushed her luck, shifting blame and accusing her husband of ingratitude. It was unreasonable to expect Qiao Xian to tolerate such behavior. Mrs. Xuan seethed with anger, visibly trembling. Maintaining composure, Qiao Xian said calmly, I am going to rest, Mrs. Xuan, please. She had no desire to engage with Mrs. Xuan any longer. Mrs. Xuan sneered and left without a backward glance. Fearful of her old master's scolding, Mrs. Xuan refrained from sharing the encounter. Unable to find an outlet for her anger, she covered her face, and tears streamed down. Xiao Yunduan breathed a sigh of relief with the armed forces under his command. He wouldn't undertake anything without confidence. Even with the 60 troublesome bailiffs, he remained unfazed. In addition to Sun Bai, Sun Qian, Jing Sang, and others, he had 50 trusted aides supplied by Meng Wanfu and Ding Xiang. These individuals operated covertly, residing discreetly in the heart of N's city. Half of them lived in the mansion jointly acquired by him and Qiao Xian, taking great care to avoid detection. Hence, only Qiao Xian, Sun Bai, Sun Qian, Jing Sang, and Songshi were privy to their existence. Xiao Yunduan had provided the list of former bailiffs, and his men were tailing them with their exceptional skills. It was, of course, impossible for the former bailiffs to outmatch them. After dealing with the bailiffs, the focus shifted to the scribes. Xiao Yunduan instructed his men to locate the scribes who were either sick or on leave from work. For those unable to return immediately, he set a clear deadline and had it documented on paper. The reasons for their absence and the duration of their leave had to be truthfully filled in. Verification might be necessary later, and deceiving a superior was not a matter to be taken lightly. Obtaining understanding from a superior under such circumstances was undoubtedly challenging. If the absence prolonged, resignation might be a better option. The functioning of the government office could not be indefinitely delayed for someone. If they couldn't return, replacements would be hired. Furthermore, those frequently falling sick or claiming poor health were deemed unsuitable for the job. Such individuals were even more deserving of dismissal. However, Xiao Yunduan wasn't heartless. Anyone choosing to leave would receive 3 months' salary, not a cent less. Upon receiving the news, reactions among the scribes varied. Some were enraged, others embarrassed, angry, or panicking, and some were filled with regret. However, none dared to disregard the directive. The lesson was right before their eyes. Initially, when Lord Xiao targeted the bailiffs on leave, they had anticipated his humiliation. Assuming he wouldn't dare touch the scribes, they focused on the bailiffs. Yet, the bailiffs proved challenging, their sheer number posed difficulties, and legal repercussions couldn't be easily applied to the masses. Chapter 1696, He Can Do It Again. They had doubted Lord Xiao's ability to handle the situation. Unexpectedly, within just a few days, those individuals had already dispersed euro in this critical moment. Lord Xiao sent someone to seek them out, leaving no room for exploitation. Faced with such clarity, none dared to stir up trouble. While the bailiffs were shameless, the scribes were no different. Hearing about Deputy Prefect Guan being assaulted by the bailiffs, they couldn't approach Deputy Prefect Guan for advice. The potential consequences were unknown. Consequently, the following day, the scribes dutifully reported to the government office. Most of them were cultivated talents, and a few were child students. As scholars, they upheld a sense of dignity. Upon meeting, they didn't appear awkward at all. Smiles and greetings were exchanged as if nothing had occurred. They greeted Xiao Yunduan with the same nonchalance. Internally, Xiao Yunduan sighed. It was commonly said that officials were as slippery as oil, and these individuals were undeniably superior. While he harbored little fondness for many of them, their cooperation was necessary for the smooth functioning of the government office. As long as they didn't cause trouble, he didn't need to concern himself too much. Among them, a few were particularly crafty and cunning, having long colluded with Deputy Prefect Guan. Dealing with them was on his agenda, though the time wasn't ripe just yet. Certainly, leniency was an option. If they corrected their course in time, avoiding a point of no return, he might spare them. However, these considerations were likely his alone. They wouldn't believe in his commitment to staying indefinitely or in his capabilities. Having been with Deputy Prefect Guan for so many years, convincing them wouldn't be easy. Xiao Yunduan was mentally prepared for the worst. If they couldn't align with him and instead awaited opportunities to cause trouble, Xiao Yunduan couldn't afford to keep those individuals. The intermediate government office lacked unity, making it ill-equipped to contend with the three families and the bandits, let alone confront them. A weak link could easily drag down the entire team, jeopardizing the favorable situation. After addressing the issue with the bailiffs, Xiao Yunduan dispatched a message to Deputy Prefect Guan the next day. He tactfully avoided any mention of the bailiff's visit to his house, having already imparted a lesson. Xiao Yunduan focused on the topic of spring farming, inviting Deputy Prefect Guan to the government office for a discussion. Mrs. Guan reacted with fury upon hearing the news. What does Lord Xiao think of you, old master? Does he believe he can come and go as he pleases? If he wants suspension, so be it. If he wants you to return and work for him, let him make the request. Humph, it's not that easy. Deputy Prefect Guan was taken aback. Initially, he hadn't entertained this perspective. However, his wife's words prompted him to reconsider, and the more he pondered, the more it seemed plausible. Dejected, aggrieved, and depressed initially, Deputy Prefect Guan found himself trembling again. He could make a stand. Deputy Prefect Guan held a different view from the others. Xiao Yunduan had personally conveyed this message to him, and the urgency was palpable. What did this signify? It suggested Xiao Yunduan was at a loss, relying on Deputy Prefect Xuan for assistance. In other words, Xiao Yunduan didn't know what to do and could only seek Deputy Prefect Xuan's cooperation. Chapter 1697, Raising the Price. This reaction was quite expected. Xiao Yunduan lacked experience and felt lost when faced with significant matters. If he didn't seek help, who else would he turn to? With spring plowing approaching, this was the opportune moment. But then again, shouldn't there be an attitude of seeking assistance? Deputy Prefect Xuan sneered. Who did Xiao Yunduan think he was? He had cunningly deceived him in the bailiff incident, and now he wanted Deputy Prefect Xuan to worry about labor and work for him? Even if he were the Lord Prefect, he couldn't expect such favors. The plan was to make Xiao Yunduan panic, leave him helpless, and then showcase Deputy Prefect Xuan's capabilities, making it clear who Xiao Yunduan should rely on in An's province. Moreover, the bailiff incident had inflicted significant losses, causing him to lose face. He needed someone to compensate for it, and Lord Xiao seemed wealthier. Therefore, Deputy Prefect Xuan politely declined. Through the housekeeper, he conveyed his message with utmost courtesy. Due to his injury and ongoing recovery, he had no choice but to trouble Lord Xiao temporarily. He assured Xiao Yunduan not to worry, promising to share the burden once he recovered. Maintaining a composed expression, Xiao Yunduan calmly accepted Deputy Prefect Xuan's response, advising him to prioritize recovery. Regarding the errand, Deputy Prefect Xuan could attend to it once he regained his health. As a gesture of gratitude, Xiao Yunduan instructed Songshe to prepare a gift for Deputy Prefect Xuan. Deputy Prefect Xuan felt even more satisfied with himself. What did Lord Xiao's actions signify? It seemed like he was bowing down to Deputy Prefect Xuan. It appeared he had made the right move. Deputy Prefect Xuan settled into a sense of assurance, deciding to ignore Xiao Yunduan for a few more days. Favors, in his perspective, were best bestowed upon someone when they were at their most vulnerable and helpless. It made the assistance seem all the more valuably a concept akin to saving people from fire and water. This approach ensured that the other party would remember the gratitude, unable to deny it even if they wished to. As for Xiao Yunduan's plans, Deputy Prefect Xuan remained in the dark. Xiao Yunduan was accustomed to orchestrating events, offering Deputy Prefect Xuan an opportunity by extending the ladder. If Deputy Prefect Xuan had learned from the bailiff incident, he would have seized the chance and followed suit. He could then showcase his capabilities to Xiao Yunduan. A sensible person would have taken the initiative to handle the spring planting responsibility without further prompting. However, Deputy Prefect Xuan had different intentions. Mrs. Xuan's grievances had inflated his sense of importance. He hoped to witness Xiao Yunduan's failure, swooping in as the savior to resolve the issue. This would force Xiao Yunduan to rely on him, demonstrating to everyone that he was more competent than the Lord of Prefect. He yearned for everyone to acknowledge that he still held authority in An's province. Unaware that his resistance could still be won over by Xiao Yunduan's tact, Deputy Prefect Xuan remained stubborn. Xiao Yunduan comprehended his mindset. If Deputy Prefect Xuan chose to be obstinate, Xiao Yunduan saw no reason to be accommodating. He had done what was required. If Deputy Prefect Xuan failed to appreciate it, there would be no second chance. Xiao Yunduan gathered the scribes for a discussion, contemplating his next moves. Chapter 1698, This is a lot of bad accounts. The scribes were either silent, spoke in seemingly logical but empty words, or excessively flattered the lord of the prefect, attributing wisdom and divine insight to him. They all hung on to the lord's every word. Upon re-examining the state treasury booklet, Xiao Yunduan discovered the absence of seeds. This implied that he would need to spend money to purchase them from the three families this spring. While the three families had verbally agreed to supply seeds to the government at market prices, there were no contractual instructions that could serve as evidence. This lack of formal agreements highlighted the considerable influence of the three families in An's province, as well as the former prefect's indifference towards this matter. The account book presented an even grimmer picture. Not only was there no money recorded, but it was also evident that significant debts were owed to the three major family clans and two additional family clans. As Xiao Yunduan perused the list, he found detailed entries of various expenses: building bridges, paving roads, digging canals, aiding victims, and post-flood reconstruction. Yet, these matters were virtually impossible to investigate or scrutinize. In essence, it amounted to bad debt €, an accumulation of chaos left behind by the previous prefects. After years of unchecked growth, the total debt had ballooned to over 700,000 taels of silver. While this might be a trivial sum in the prosperous state capital of Jiangnan, it loomed as an insurmountable burden for An's province. The few influential families wielded unchecked power in An's province. Over 700,000 taels €, even if his wife could amass such wealth, she had only earned slightly more than 1,000,000 taels. Xiao Yunduan's expression darkened as he scrutinized the account book. Had it not been for the considerable financial resources at his disposal, nearly matching those of his wife, he wouldn't have felt the need for immediate caution. The mere sight of this account book was enough to induce a headache. Against the formidable backdrop of the three great clans, he found himself incapable of taking a firm stance. It seemed utterly unreasonable to confront someone after accumulating debts. As the lord of the prefect, any attempt to assert authority, credibility, or character was rendered futile. Observing this, the scribes exchanged subtle glances, remaining as impassive as mountains. They had grown accustomed to witnessing such expressions from the prefects. The outcome was inevitably €, they would all bow before the three families. The spring plowing couldn't be delayed. Quick preparation and transportation of seeds to various towns were imperative. Villagers from different areas would present their land deeds and purchase seeds according to their land measurements. Government-bought seeds were not only of high quality with excellent germination rates, but they were also reasonably priced. Prioritizing the people's livelihood had always been a focus of Great Qin. Local officials dared not tamper with the distribution of spring and autumn seeds, as any discovery would lead to expulsion and a 3-generation ban on entering officialdom for their descendants. Therefore, the majority of farmers opted to purchase seeds from the government, leading to an extensive demand. Unfortunately, An's province's warehouse was entirely devoid of seeds. Facing this dire situation, Xiao Yunduan, despite being prepared for it, couldn't contain his fury. This discussion naturally ended without reaching any conclusive decision, as none were willing to voice their thoughts openly. Chapter 1699, not like before. Only one scribe sneered, apart from seeking help from the three great families like in the past, there's no other way. This matter can't be delayed anymore. These seeds must be transferred into the warehouse promptly and distributed to the towns as soon as possible. If we delay any longer, it will be too late. Xiao Yunduan cast a glance at the scribe named Jia Hemming and smiled. If that is the case, then you can make a trip to the three big families. Ask them when they will be able to come, and ask them to hurry up. Everyone, Jia Hemming burst into laughter. Lord, you might not know the local customs, but it's useless for me to go. You have to go personally. That is impossible. Xiao Yunduan raised his eyebrows. I am the prefect, I should not be involved in such matters. The others wore strange smiles as they silently mocked Lord Xiao. He was still too young and ignorant of the three big families' influence. If he insisted on preserving his dignity in front of them, he was bound to face hardships. Young people, indeed, displayed courage and boldness. Yet, they often needed to learn how to navigate challenges when at a disadvantage. Another person reveled in Jia Hemming's predicament. This individual had always been self-righteous and condescending. Well, now he had stirred up trouble for himself. He deserved it. Jia Hemming exchanged glances with Xiao Yunduan and refrained from arguing further. He nodded. If you say so, Lord, I will make the trip, but I can't guarantee the result. No surprise there, Xiao Yunduan remarked. You can leave now. Jia Hemming, come with me. Yes, Lord. The others, looking scornfully at Jia Hemming, whispered amongst themselves as they left. They believed he got what he deserved. After all, he was the one who spoke too much. Following Xiao Yunduan to the back office, Jia Hemming was instructed to sit down. Xiao Yunduan queried, I don't think the three families will provide the seeds for free. Do you know what their conditions might be? Xiao Yunduan was unaware of the previous dealings between the prefect and the three prominent families. Though Deputy Prefect Xuan might have possessed the necessary information, it was clear he would never disclose the truth. The others in the government office were both tactful and sophisticated, each more reserved and unconcerned than the next. Gathering useful information proved challenging. Xiao Yinduan had kept a close watch on Jia Heming. He perceived him as the only potential source of truthful information within the government office. Slightly surprised, Jia Heming decided to be forthcoming. Lord, the three families have various requests, but they all boil down to seeking profits. The Fan family, with its substantial 150,000 to 160,000 mu of fertile land, prioritizes grain taxes and the food trade. The Hua family focuses on medicinal herbs and mountain products. The Mei family's master is involved in the wood business. You merely need to turn a blind eye and provide them with corresponding benefits and conveniences. Xiao Yunduan comprehended the situation and furrowed his brow. I have reviewed the tax records, and they have consistently paid substantial taxes over the years. Jia Heming emitted a cold laugh. Lord, records are just €30 records. The truth is the truth. The entries in the records are for appearances only. It's not only the three great clans. How many of the smaller family clans, affiliated with the three great clans, genuinely pay their taxes? There are prepayments in the accounts. Regardless of how dignified the reasons seem, there are loopholes. These entries and exits might appear reasonable and flawless, but it's all in the accounts. Chapter 1700, Jia Heming's doubts. The Lord of the Prefect, Deputy Prefect Xuan, and certain high-ranking scribes had all reaped benefits from these arrangements. They stood to lose nothing. The state of the government's public accounts was the imperial court's concern and had no bearing on their personal affairs. As long as there was no civil unrest, the imperial court was indifferent. If any prefect lord sought the imperial court's assistance and agreed to resolve the matter, it would not be surprising. However, the prefect lords were reluctant to interfere in each other's affairs. Allowing this debt to persist year after year would only increase the indebtedness to the major families. If the family clans diligently paid their taxes, the public accounts wouldn't be in such dire straits. The substantial businesses of the three major families alone constituted at least half of the local economy. Almost every business in An's province had some connection with the three major families. Jia Heming wasn't aware of the new prefect's plans, and it didn't matter to him. What mattered most was whether the new prefect had the capability to execute those plans. In Jia Heming's perspective, it seemed impossible. Although he didn't mind making the trip to the three major clans, he didn't believe it would end well. That was the reality. Xiao Yinduan understood that Jia Heming wouldn't provide more insight, and he, too, refrained from expressing his thoughts. He instructed Jia Heming, visit the three families and request rice seeds from them. They must ensure that the seeds are of superior quality. Regarding the price, it should align with the market rate, with a slight adjustment to avoid their incurring losses. After collecting taxes in the autumn, we will pay them the silver, settling the interest with the bank. I won't exploit them. Of course, if they agree to this, come to the state office tomorrow. I'll set the contract with them. Jia Heming was dumbfounded. Xiao Yunduan threw a strange look at him. Is there anything you don't understand? I don't understand anything. Lord. Jia Heming suppressed his thumping heart and calmed himself down. You mean €1 this rice seed is considered a normal purchase by the government and the three big families. You want €1, you won't make things easy for the three big families anymore? €1, in other words, €1, Lord, are you going to collect taxes from the three families? Xiao Yunduan said, not just the three big families, but also their relatives. Jia Heming, €1, that was not what he meant. Although Jia Heming couldn't stand the fact that the three families had colluded with the state government office to cause chaos in An's province, he couldn't wait for a capable prefect to deal with them. But hearing what Xiao Yunduan said, he could not help but worry for him. Don't go overboard. Jia Heming could not help but say, Lord, please €1, forgive me for being blunt, but this matter still needs to be planned slowly. The three big families are local tyrants after all, and their interests and relationships with the big families are intertwined. If we force them into a corner, I'm afraid €1, to be honest, Lord, the state government often can't even give out their salaries and has to borrow from the three big families. If these euro, I'm afraid they might not be willing to borrow again. If they don't borrow, other families definitely won't dare to borrow. That will cause chaos euro at the end of the day. Wasn't this a matter of money? Xiao Yunduan smiled. The money was nothing to him. He had to thank his wife. It was all thanks to his wife that he could become an official here safely. Chapter 1701, that's all the reminder, don't worry, I've thought it through. Jia Heming was stunned and seemed to understand a little. Madame Xiao had bought so many plots of land, and now she was busy hiring people to open up the land. She had no idea what she was going to plant and open up so many plots of land. She had spent a lot of money. It was obvious that Lord Xiao was a rich man. However, no matter how rich he was, it would be difficult for him to support the circulation of a government office for a year. Lord Xiao didn't have a good estimation of the situation. Jia Heming couldn't bear to see this ambitious prefect lord who wanted to expand his career and lead the An's province government office on the right track. He couldn't help but remind him. In the end, he said vaguely, there's one more thing. Forgive me for being nosy. Lord, don't forget that this is An's province. The bandits in An's province are extremely vicious and are really not easy to deal with. The families who can survive in An's province are all quite capably Jia Heming sighed in his heart. This was the only reminder he could give. Lord Xiao was a smart man. He should be able to understand what he was saying. Without evidence, he definitely wouldn't dare to say anything. However, there were some things that everyone knew very well. The reason why the three big families and the big families that relied on them could live so comfortably was definitely not just because they controlled the prefect yamen. More importantly, they must have secretly paid tribute to those bandits. Otherwise, why would those bandits be willing to live in harmony with them? If Lord Xiao wanted to touch those big families, apart from having a lot of money, he also had to be strong enough. Jia Heming felt that this was impossible. Those bandits had been operating for many years and had long become famous. Not to mention those small forces and scattered forces, just the three big forces alone could not be underestimated. They were existences that even the three big families did not dare to provoke easily. How powerful was Lord Xiao? How dare he provoke them? Were they counting on his servants? Or were they counting on these bailiffs who could not even run when they saw the bandits? It was unrealistic. Xiao Yunduan thought for a while and understood what Jia Heming meant. He smiled and said, I understand what you mean. It is okay, I have my own ideas. I will not take the lives of myself and my family as a joke. Jia Heming heaved a sigh of relief. Euro Lord, you know what you're doing. I won't say anything else. Then, the three families Euro he definitely had to go. What should he say? Xiao Yunduan said, what did I tell you? What are you going to say? Jia Heming, Euro he really wanted to roar, so Lord, you know what you're doing. Seeing that Xiao Yunduan did not seem to be joking, Jia Heming gave up. Yes, I understand. When they returned to the back office, Qiao Xian was looking at the strawberries planted in the backyard. The small strawberry field had already grown very well. The leaves were fat, tender, thick, and green. The stem was healthy, thick, and full of vitality. It had yet to bloom, but it looked like it would soon. The two of them watched for a while before entering the house together. Xiao Yunduan told Qiao Xian about the seed for a while, and then told her about what he had heard from Jia Heming about the three families. I didn't expect the three families alone to stir up such a mess in the state government office. They probably have a deep relationship with those bandits. Wife, I really want to send you back to Yuzhangiro. Chapter 1702, Concern is chaotic. When Xiao Xian tried to persuade him, Xiao Yunduan agreed and thought that he could protect her. But now, he was not so confident. The situation here was much more dangerous than he had expected. He had to ensure that he would take it step by step and not make any mistakes. If anything went wrong, all his previous efforts would be wasted. He couldn't afford to bet on her. Qiao Xian caressed her belly and said with a smile, Don't worry about me, my husband. Unless those bandits dare to attack the state office, I am safe. They don't have the guts. The imperial court was afraid of them. Now that they had turned a blind eye to them, they were naturally happy to live a stable life. However, if they dared to attack the government office in public and kill the local officials, they would be openly provoking the imperial court. They would be rebelling and looking down on Great Qin. The emperor would never let them go and would definitely send an army to kill them. Otherwise, would the imperial court still be shameless? Where would the emperor's face go? He believed that such a situation was definitely not what those mountain kings wanted to see. Once the imperial court sent an army, they would definitely suffer. Even if they were not wiped out, they would definitely suffer. Therefore, unless it was a life-and-death struggle, they would never provoke the governmental office. It was not that Xiao Yunduan did not understand this, but he was just confused. Hearing what Xiao Xian said calmly, Xiao Yunduan could not help but burst into laughter, feeling totally relieved. He took hold of Xiao Xian's hands, lowered his head and rubbed against her forehead. He said softly, "I am so lucky to be able to marry you, my wife. The Xiao family has accumulated so much fortune over the past few lifetimes, and it is all thanks to me." Xiao Xian felt very sweet inside her heart, but she was also embarrassed by what he said. She leaned into his arms and smiled. "As long as we do not have the same blessing, it is my blessing." Xiao Yunduan smiled. "As you wish." Xiao Xian's negative karma was still going on. The 3,000 mu of land had been cleaned up, and the trimmed firewood had been brought back to their families by the workers. Now, he was digging roots, grass, and bushes, turning the entire ground over. There were too many different kinds of roots, and some of them were quite huge. There was no way for the iron plow to work normally. Apart from removing all kinds of roots, he had to roughly tidy up the ground and try to make it as flat as possible. Only then could he use the plowing oxen to pull and plow the ground. Each person had 2 meat buns for lunch. There were enough steamed buns and bone soup. The salary was paid every 5 days. The employees were very motivated. Then, Liu Fu and the others checked carefully. The roots and grass were clean. 40 people could clear about 120 to 150 mu in a day. The clearing of weeds and miscellaneous trees in the mountain would be slower, but it had already been completed in the past 2 days. There was no need to dig up the entire ground. They only needed to dig away the roots and bushes. Qiao Xian planned to plant peppers and star anise all over the mountain, so that some herbs could be planted in the flat area at the foot of the mountain. Apart from the place where the herbs were planted, she would plant them well and dig a tree pit on the mountain. According to the current speed, all the land would be sorted out in about half a month. After that, it would not take much time to dig holes and plow. Although time was a little tight, he could still plant all the seeds if he rushed and grabbed Spring's tail. Chapter 1703, Reject Farming demanded precision, timed perfectly to avoid the detrimental effects of scorching temperatures. The challenge lay in preventing saplings from losing water during extreme heat, as it significantly lowered the survival rate. Yet, these issues posed no obstacle for Qiao Xian. Qiao Xian's extraordinary abilities were more than sufficient to oversee the cultivation of tens of thousands of mu of plants. As the couple immersed themselves in their individual careers, onlookers were left bewildered and uncertain. In the eyes of many, the lord of the prefect was not only engaged in farming but also seamlessly handling governmental affairs. His uncompromising stance and refusal to let anyone take advantage of him appeared, to some, a deviation from the norm. Jia Hemming approached the 3 prominent families, seeking their agreement to supply rice seeds based on Xiao Yunduan's conditions. However, none were willing to comply. Even the more amiable ones, like the Hua family, attempted to probe but soon realized the lord of the prefect's unyielding nature. They cited numerous domestic responsibilities and claimed a lack of surplus rice seeds, expressing regret for being unable to assist. Old Lady Fan of the Fan family went a step further, openly berating Jia Hemming and severing ties with him. The Mei family adopted a similarly cold stance, rejecting the proposal outright. Jia Hemming tirelessly shuttled between Xiao Yunduan and the 3 major families, engaging in several rounds of negotiations that ultimately ended on sour terms. Old Lady Fan, influenced by her daughter's accounts, developed a negative opinion of Xiao Yunduan and Xiao Xian. In response, she instructed her eldest son to reach out to the other two families. The trio convened at the Fan family residence to devise countermeasures. Old Lady Fan's face displayed contempt and mockery. It appears our Lord of the Prefect State is obsessed with wealth. He has set his sights on us, how amusing. Old Master Hu maintained a smile without uttering a word. First Old Master Mei sneered, youth knows no fear. This Lord Xiao is unlike his predecessors. Old Lady Fan cackled, youth these days, so audacious. We elders must guide them to understand the vastness of heaven and earth. We won't meddle in this affair, nor shall we permit other families to intervene or lend him money. Let's witness what he can achieve. What do you think? The Fan family had officially registered 150,000 mu of fertile land with the government, but in reality, it was 200,000 mu. Despite the abundance of fertile fields, hefty annual taxes were a constant burden. Xiao Yunduan's insistence that the Fan family start paying taxes from this year forward enraged Old Lady Fan. The Fan family yielded a considerable harvest annually, mostly sold as commodities. Thanks to the government's support, the produce not only sold smoothly but fetched a price that left the Fan family content. Despite offering some benefits to the government, it remained a profitable venture. However, the new prefect lord's demand for taxes on the Fan family's food sales threatened to disrupt their prosperity. Xiao Yunduan was unwilling to ease the process for the Fan family. This prospect left the Fan clan facing substantial losses. In reality, the Fan family's past actions were unlawful, constituting a violation of the law. Xiao Yunduan merely urged them to relinquish their privileged status. Having enjoyed these privileges for years, the Fan family had grown accustomed to them. Xiao Yunduan's attempt to strip away these benefits was seen as an infringement on their rights and interests. Naturally, they resisted. Chapter 1704, Discussion between the three families. As a result, Old Lady Fan seethed with fury. Despite Jia Hemming's repeated visits, she consistently taunted and ridiculed him, making him oblivious to the extent of her disdain. The mere mention of the prefect lord would elicit Old Lady Fan's fervent desire for Xiao Yunduan's misfortune. She would then resort to tearful pleas, accompanied by generous offers of benefits to the Fan family. During such moments, she found some satisfaction in venting her anger. Upon hearing Old Lady Fan's sentiments, Old Master Mei displayed contentment and nodded. Let's proceed with that plan. Old Master Hu chuckled, adding, since you've made up your mind, I naturally can't lag behind. In response, Old Lady Fan snorted and rolled her eyes at him. She harbored a strong dislike for the cunning and selfish old man from the Hu family, who always prioritized personal gain. Despite being astute, he never took a step forward, always hiding behind others. Regardless, the Fan family, with its strength, held no fear. Now that the decision's made, let's stand by our word. Everyone, go back and inform your families, relatives, and friends. Old Master Mei and Old Master Hu nodded in agreement. Suddenly, Old Lady Fan's tone shifted, and she remarked, the government still owes us a considerable sum of money, not to mention the interest. What's your stance on reclaiming it? Old Master Hua and Old Master Mei's hearts skipped a beat at this unexpected turn. They thought to themselves, how ruthless. When it came to being relentless, vengeful, and unyielding, no one dared to challenge Old Lady Fan for the top spot. Let's proceed cautiously, Old Master Mei advised slowly. Forcing the Lord of the Prefect into a corner may bring unforeseen changes. We're all seeking wealth, there's no need to escalate matters to that extent at the moment. Old Master Hu nodded in agreement. The Mei family's eldest nephew is correct. A cornered rabbit bites. Moreover, Lord Xiao is known for his temper. Stirring up trouble might not be necessary. The idea of the government owing them money seemed appealing. This way, regardless of who assumed the role of prefect, they would have a favor owed to them. Denying such a claim was practically impossible. Since each family wasn't lacking in funds, treating the owed sum like a deposit in the bank seemed reasonable. Old Lady Fan, displeased by their opposition, sneered and remarked, "Repaying what you owe is the right thing to do. How can you turn it into a problem? Is having a temper an excuse not to settle debts? What a joke. If you want, the Fan family will reclaim the money, that's for certain." Old Master May remained silent. Old Master Hua smiled without offering further comments. Even more displeased, Old Lady Fan took action the next day. She instructed her 2 sons to visit the office and demand the return of the owed 80,000 taels of silver from Lord Qiao. The 2 old masters of the Fan family were baffled, unable to comprehend their mother's sudden insistence on this matter. Despite attempting to dissuade her, Old Lady Fan remained obstinate. Helpless, the 2 elders sought an alternative solution and requested their daughter-in-law to approach Madame Qiao first. After some consideration, Old Lady Fan eventually agreed, stating, "Fine, I'll save some face for Lord Qiao. If he has any sense, he'll return the money. Otherwise, don't blame me for tarnishing the reputation of the prefect's office." Indeed, it was embarrassing for the dignified prefect's office to be unable to repay a debt. Such a situation would undermine Xiao Yunduan's authority. After all, he represented the prefect's office. Chapter 1705, Why Are You Here? Was Fan Rian willing to miss out on such a lively event? Of course not, she wanted to go too. Although first Madame Fan was hesitant to bring along her seemingly trouble-stirring sister-in-law, she lacked the authority to refuse. Thus, the following morning, they made their way to the backyard of the state government office to visit Madame Qiao. Qiao Xian had just finished discussing matters with Songshi, Liu Fu, and others when she learned of first Madame Fan and Aunt's visit. Smiling, she greeted them, "Keep an eye on the schedule and try to expedite matters. Time waits for no one." The 2 women agreed and departed. Li Qiao commented, "They didn't come when you were resting. I don't know why they're here now." The sentiment was unanimous. Qiao Xian smiled. "They're not here to visit me. Since they've come, let them in." First Madame Fan exhibited proper manners as she greeted Qiao Xian politely, took a seat, and engaged in conversation. She inquired about the baby in Qiao Xian's belly, offering advice on pregnancy and discussing how to care for the child. Qiao Xian, genuinely interested, joined the conversation with enthusiasm. For a pregnant woman eagerly anticipating her child, there was no more enticing topic. It was impossible to resist such kindness. Fan Rian's expression soured. Gradually, her complexion paled as she glared at first Madame Fan. She had suspected it. Her 2 sister-in-laws weren't as benevolent as they appeared. While they behaved respectably in front of their mother, behind her back, they harbored disdain for her and her family. Yet, she was also a member of the Fan family, just like her brothers. They shared the same mother. Why couldn't she find a husband? Why couldn't she claim a share of the Fan family's assets? His mother and brothers remained silent. What right did his 2 sister-in-laws have to be dissatisfied? They were outsiders. Whenever he was present, his mother would insist that they take care of him. However, when he wasn't in front of her, how willing were they to cater to his needs? It was preposterous. Qiao Xian had already noticed Fan Rian's discontented expression but chose to feign ignorance. Dealing with the wife of the prefect required careful consideration in conversation, after all. What a jest! Did this girl from the Fan family believe everyone had to flatter her? Upon reflection, it seemed that was indeed the case. The Fan family, one of the 3 major families in An's province, wielded significant influence in the region. With the government struggling to control the area, they heavily relied on these 3 families for management. Given such circumstances, the Fan family had the power to demand praise and face from others. Over time, Fan Rian might have developed such a personality naturally. Yet, Qiao Xian refused to cater to it. While others might endure Fan Rian's arrogant temper, willingly or not, Qiao Xian saw no need to seek assistance from the Fan family. As for fear, it held even less sway over her. If the Fan family persisted in their arrogance, it was only a matter of time before her husband took a stand against them. In essence, they were already in the first round. Observing her sister-in-law's darkening expression, First Madam Fan inwardly sighed. She couldn't keep pretending she hadn't noticed. If she had continued to turn a blind eye, she would be spared this current predicament. However, when she returned, Fan Rian would undoubtedly complain to their mother-in-law. Chapter 1706. Dead at that moment, she was uncertain about the severity of her mother-in-law's potential punishment. Even though she was over 40 years old and already a grandmother, it mattered little. Her mother-in-law was known for being unreasonable. If she wanted to reprimand her, dignity would be the last thing she granted. It wasn't surprising that the two of them had always been close. First Madam Fan welcomed Fan Rian with a smile, though Fan Rian failed to appreciate it. Instead, she felt further aggrieved. Where were you earlier? You deliberately ignored her. Now, you're probably afraid of being scolded when you go back. Only then did you think of her, a living person, beside you. Ha! Fan Rian didn't follow First Madam Fan's lead. Instead, she addressed Xiao Xian with a forced smile. I heard you've purchased numerous mountains and are hiring people to explore them. What are your plans for cultivation? Do you intend to settle in Ans permanently? Xiao Xian smiled. The crops planted in the land were no secret to anyone. However, she disliked Fan Rian's tone and had no intention of sharing details. Well, cultivate whatever thrives well in Ans province, yielding a good return. Well, plant casually, indifferently. As for settling here permanently, that depends on the imperial court. Nevertheless, my husband will stay for at least 2 or 3 terms. She glanced at First Madam Fan and added with a smile, I may require your assistance in various matters in the future. First Madam Fan bowed, smiling. Fan Rian sneered inwardly. You still want the Fan clan's help? Seeking advantage from the Fan clan? Dream on. Madam Xiao, considering the substantial land purchase, you and your husband must have spent a considerable amount of money. The Ans province government office still owes our family 80,000 taels of silver. With our family engaged in significant business now, we're unable to turn the money around. Since Lord Xiao and Madam Xiao aren't lacking in funds, could you assist the government office in settling this debt with our family first? Fan Rian spoke up, feeling that she had expressed herself quite tactfully. First Madam Fan, embarrassed, wished she could vanish. The prefect, Lord Xiao, was seeking money from the prefect's wife, and as long as he remained in office, the Fan family wouldn't be able to extract anything from him. She disapproved of this matter as much as her husband did. If she were the one handling it, she wouldn't even bring it up, she'd simply have a few words with old Madam Fan. Fan Rian had accompanied her, intending to drop a subtle hint or two. Little did she know that this girl wanted to stir up trouble. First Madam Fan felt powerless and turned to Xiao Xian with an apologetic look, forcing a smile. Madam Xiao, I'm truly sorry. The Jia family is facing difficulties right now, and we wouldn't have resorted to this if we had other options. Please forgive us. Fan Rian glanced at her sister-in-law disdainfully. So what if she phrased it nicely? Regardless of how polite the request sounded, they were there to collect debts. Expecting Madame Xiao to treat them cordially without harboring any resentment was wishful thinking. Qiao Xian was taken aback. She hadn't anticipated that the two sisters-in-law had a specific purpose for their visit. However, she never imagined it was to collect debts. From her husband, she had heard about the disorderly state of the official accounts, with substantial debts owed to local prominent families. Hence, owing money to the Fan family wasn't surprising. Chapter 1707, giving it to her the sum of 80,000 taels of silver was undeniably substantial. Had it not been for Xiao Yunduan and Xiao Xian, no one else could have procured such a significant amount for the prefect. It raised a dilemma. How could this prefect maintain any dignity and confidence in front of these affluent families? It was no wonder each prefect's tenure was short-lived. Beyond the threats posed by bandits and outlaws, the influence of these powerful families might also play a role. If these prominent families were covertly connected to the bandits and outlaws, each prefect would likely seethe with frustration yet dare not voice their grievances. What a vexing situation. Qiao Xian remained silent, and Fan Rian reveled in her satisfaction. Being the prefect's wife didn't alter the fact that money could overwhelm even a hero. Without funds, how could one hope to control the Fan family? Lord Prefect was too naive. Did they genuinely believe the Fan clan was an easy target? Fan Rian continued, Madam Qiao, we are facing our own challenges. Please understand, Madam Qiao and Lord Qiao. Qiao Xian smiled. You need not be overly polite, Madam Bai. However, 80,000 taels of silver is a substantial sum. I will need to consult with my husband. How about this, Mrs. Bai, return tomorrow and don't forget to bring the IOU. Both First Madam Fan and Fan Rian were taken aback. What did this mean? Was Madam Qiao truly planning to repay the money? Indeed, 80,000 taels of silver was a considerable amount. How could they produce it immediately? Nevertheless, having made the statement, there was no room for retraction. Fan Rian promptly agreed, wearing a smile. Qiao Xian nodded and smiled. It's a deal. First Madam Fan felt even more ashamed and uneasy. Feeling embarrassed to stay any longer, she quickly stood up with a smile and bid farewell. Qiao Xian didn't prolong the encounter and arranged for someone to escort them out. Upon Xiao Yunduan's return, Qiao Xian shared the encounter with a smile. Husband, it appears the three families have no intention of cooperating with you. Xiao Yunduan had been planning to revoke their privileges when the Fan family voiced their objection, and the other two families followed suit. Although Xiao Yunduan anticipated this development, he didn't expect it to unfold so swiftly. It seems we can't rely on them for the seeds. The Fan family has made their stance clear, and the others are likely to follow suit. I've implicated you again. Qiao Xian smiled. It's not a big deal. I have the IOU, and am not accepting the money for free. With the taxes due this year, they'll be repaid. Xiao Yunduan smiled and embraced her. Of course. Even so, without Qiao Xian, he wouldn't have managed it. If all the prominent families joined forces, the cost would exceed 600,000 taels of silver. Where could an ordinary prefect lord procure such a sum? After discussing for a while, Xiao Yunduan voiced his concern. The money is one thing, but I'm worried they might take other actions. My wife, don't go out so easily, and keep an eye on Songshi and the others. Xiao Yunduan wasn't overly concerned about Songshi and the land reclamation. The three big families were more likely to target him or his wife rather than the servants. What use was there in targeting servants? They wouldn't expect him to retaliate over a few servants. They wouldn't dare to touch the wasteland since they had their own fields. Their audacity to meddle here stemmed from the belief that consequences wouldn't follow. If they did provoke a reaction, they would be at a disadvantage. After all, their fields were superior and more numerous.